What's up, everybody? Welcome to PLD Projects. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, on review is Lego. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and I am so excited to talk about this episode
Yes.
because we got our poor little Godzilla Jr.
This is it. Godzilla Jr. runs wild. And we are here on review, of course, talking about the fantastical sci-fi thriller V and the sequel miniseries V: The Final Battle, and we're going to get into everything else later on, the weekly series, everything else. But today, it is the final episode of The Final Battle, which isn't so final after all, but that's in the future.
It's like a horror movie. You can say the final chapter, you can say the final nightmare. We know it's not. And also Halloween, you had a missed opportunity. We're looking at you.
That's right. Damn you. You should have known better. You know who you are.
Exactly. Or do they?
Maybe they don't. Maybe they think they're above it. Sometimes I feel like they might think they're above it.
Oh yeah, because they started it.
Yeah, they started the whole thing. You know better. You know better. But that's okay. Someday, maybe they'll learn now. Maybe the next one will be called
the next trilogy. It'll end with the final Halloween.
Final Halloween.
The last trick or treat.
Can't wait for Jamie Lee Curtis to be walking on a walker.
No! It's gonna be Daniel Harris. What are you talking about?
Well, that I would absolutely go for. Give me Daniel
Harris and Josh Hartnett's gonna play Michael. It's fine. I fan cast.
Wow, you just opened up a whole new world for me there, Josh Hartnett. Michael. Okay, we'll do it. Let's do it.
He's still around.
He is definitely still around. I think he would definitely do it too. Why wouldn't he at this point, right? Come on now. But that's another podcast that we'll have to do at some point. That's not a V. We're not gonna, unless Josh Hartnett and Daniel Harris are going to be in a new V. We probably shouldn't go on about them.
That being said, but moving on.
Godzilla. Right. Godzilla Jr. Well, this is like this. I would say my overall thoughts on this, and we'll get into it more specifically. This finishes what it started in more ways than one. It definitely, by this point, has eschewed pretty much all of the political socio talk. Pretty much at this point, it's pretty much all action the entire time. Almost all of it. It's
a little bit.
Let's just say there's the least amount in this one that we've had so far at this point.
I mean, we're talking about, I almost said global nuclear war. This is not war games. We're talking about a nuclear annihilation. This is modern stuff here.
That's true. It is more always related to the action side of things, though. This is definitely a lot more of the pew-pew. A lot more of the pew-pew, not a lot of the sit down and talk moments. There are a few, and they are good, but they're not in the forefront. If the original V had like 50-50, even 60-40 as far as like conversation versus action, it's definitely flipped at this point. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I do think overall it's made for a satisfying conclusion.
Well, I would argue there's a point once you get into a war where the conversations about morality kind of cease to happen, and it becomes more about we need to do this or die.
Sure. You're not wrong, and absolutely, I think the filmmakers here made that finish as well. There are definitely some interesting choices made towards the end. I mean, I say satisfying conclusion. Doesn't mean that it's a perfect conclusion. There's definitely some interesting things we'll get into.
Yeah, I felt like it ended, and you're just like, but I have a few questions.
Just one or two. You went there. Oh, you're going there. Okay. All right. But there's a couple of. It's funny that I will say this, or I'll throw this out there right there, and we'll get into it. It's funny how Independence Day was kind of lauded as being a ripping off of V somewhat with like the visuals and things. That's not the only way I feel Independence ripped off V a little bit. As far as a human-based Earth resistance defeating a superior technological force in, shall we say, potentially questionable ways. But
but now I'm just wishing the Independence Day sequel had a hot air balloon montage.
Ooh, that is what it was missing. Absolutely. Put it in there. All of a sudden, it was a 5-star movie. Maybe not. But
Oh, it would have been 5-star for me.
It might have gone all the way around. It might have gone all the way down and then back around again. That's true. I'll have to see it before I make my final judgment. I won't
Judd
watch the
Hirsch in
judgment.
a hot air balloon taking out some aliens? Heck yeah.
There you go. There you go. That you could hear. We're gonna have fun talking this episode, I think, for sure. It's not to say it's all nuts. There's definitely some good moments, definitely some fun moments. And I like how it does end overall. So let's get right into it. We begin this one right where it ended, pretty much a little bit later on. At the end of last episode, we saw baby Godzilla climbing out of mommy's between mommy's legs and freaking everybody out. And then we have a couple weeks later. Definitely a visual. It swore me off from sex for a while. I got to be honest with you. Then we went into seeing our favorite actress from this entire thing, our favorite character, Robin, in the jail cell. If you have watched this before, Robin is definitively not a very good character, not a very good actress. Blair, I'm sorry. Maybe you're great in other things.
I've seen her in a very brief moment in a horror movie I can't remember the name of. She worked in a bowling alley.
Okay.
And I think she was killed.
Probably.
And that's the only other time I've ever seen her.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. And that's impressive that you remember that, because it's definitely a horror movie I haven't seen, because I can't remember that at all. But okay, that's neither here nor there. If you ever come up with that name of that, let me know, though, because I'm always have this collection of things I want to watch with other V characters. We just had this discussion off air about we're going to watch Watchers and Watchers 2, because Watchers has Michael Ironside, and then Watchers 2 has Mark Singer in it. So it's a great connection to our lovely franchise here. But either way, Robin goes into the jail to see her babies. And Harmony's in there with Elizabeth, looking all pretty. No sign of the forked tongue anymore. It's not popping out of there. I think it has to do with effects, maybe. The effect the doll had the forked tongue. The real baby's not going to have the forked tongue. But then Robin sees the other child who is in distress, and
Godzilla
Jr., and it's not a good start for our favorite actress, and it's not a good performance at all. It was not a great way for me to start, but I understood how to start that way, given how they ended last week. Was there anything redeeming about her at all in this one, do you think?
I could tell the writers had good moments for her that I just don't think Blair Tefkin, she was just miscast.
Yeah,
agreed. Movie, by the way, A Fright Night, Part 2.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have seen that. Now that you mentioned that does ring a bell. Okay, fair enough. Didn't watch as much as Fright Night Part 1. That's probably why I don't remember. But of course.
But I really like that. So she comes in, I think it's been a week. I don't know if this is the first time she's visited said babies.
It feels like it is.
Yes. So Harmony apparently named the kid for her, Elizabeth, which I thought was interesting. Like, okay, I guess we're just gonna take over that role. Whatever, it's fine. And they didn't name Godzilla Jr., which is why I just keep referring to them as Godzilla Jr. The way specifically the way Robin speaks about the child is like very dehumanizing, referring to them as it and stuff like that. Very sad.
I feel bad for it. It's not the baby's fault.
Yeah, and also, you know what? Sometimes kids look weird. Listen, all babies are ugly. That's just the fact that they don't come out cute. It takes a while.
That's right. Trust me. All of them do it. They may see, if you're saying they do, you're lying to yourself. Really.
Or you got parental vision on or something.
Right. Got the misshapen heads. They're all squished. It's not right. It's not right. It does take a while. Not that this one was ever going to get any better in Blair's eyes, but I still felt bad for the poor thing. Poor little thing. Poor little Godzilla Jr.
I really wish we'd had a Robin freaks out counter, though.
We should have
done that. Which one, what number we're on. I don't know if Western mathematics has a number high enough to encapsulate this figure.
If this were a drinking game, we'd be in trouble.
I'd be dead. I would be legally dead. There's a toe tag on me right now, and it is Robin's fault.
Oh, poor livers of ours. Good thing it's not a drinking game, so we are safe for now. We probably shouldn't even bring it up because somebody will make a drinking game, and then that would be bad.
Yes, it does not have. We don't have the rights.
Right.
It's not past the safety tests. We need a disclaimer here.
Yeah.
Don't do
Sag-
it.
yeah. We are not endorsing that. This is
Don't try
not an
this at
endorsement.
home or in public.
All right. After that scene ends, we shift over to Donovan and Martin, who, if you
Back
remember
in
at
the
the
day.
last episode, back at the vents, Donovan sold Martin out because of the truth serum. So they escape into the events that are like the New York City subway system, apparently, and nobody goes in there except for them. And nobody can find them when they're in there. I guess the aliens don't have enough technology to search events because they're always getting away from there.
Or lock them so no
Or
one
lock
can
them.
get in.
That's even
No locking mechanisms on the vents, please. This is very important to me while you're designing the ship. Anyone should be able to get into the vents at any time.
exactly. So Martin comes up with a plan to get off the ship. He looks like he watched Mission Impossible, I think Fallout, wants to do the skydiving from a very, very high distance, I guess. Or maybe Tom Cruise watched it be the final battle. Maybe that's where he got the idea for Mission Impossible. Mike shows his disdain for it. Of course, I do like the Martin Donovan camaraderie here. I like the first fact when Martin starts telling him, "Oh, young kids or the recruits do this their first day of training," and Donovan's like, "What?
Yep, recruits do this on our first week of trading. Yeah.
What?"
I love that Donovan is legitimately terrified. He's like, let's go back.
I got a better idea.
Let's do a cruiser. Let's go to certain death. That's better than this certain death.
Right. Exactly. Of course, when Martin and Donovan had the thing, Donovan finally is about to go through it, and he sits there and he's like, "Would you really do this?" And Martin, of course, lets it out. No. Sure sounded good, though. Kicks him out.
It was great.
It was great.
I wonder what their parachuting budget was.
That's a great question. It actually is a very cool sight watching them go down the chute with their Donovan all looking all scared. And get to see Martin Donovan or their stunt doubles, whatever, actually air diving of some sort. It's a nice place. It's actually probably took up a good chunk of their budget. Not gonna lie.
We'll see it later. Where they didn't have any budget to do this scene.
That definitely comes to bite them in the ass at some points. Absolutely. Meanwhile, on the mothership as well, you got Diana and Pamela doing their little soap opera dance, their little cat fighting between each other, especially over Martin and Donovan. And Pamela definitely has her plans for Diana, trying to weaken her, trying to delegitimize her as best she can. I almost feel like Pamela's okay with Donovan escaping because it makes Diana look bad.
Yeah, it's a little weird, honestly. I wish it was a little better written.
Yes.
I wish it was someone. I think it would have been interesting if Pamela was legitimately a very focused and dedicated, like, military officer, and she's got to work with freaking Diana.
Right.
She was just like, "You messed this up again."
Right, exactly. I actually don't like the fact that they play it so soap opera-y because it takes away from Pamela's character because Pamela honestly feels a little less competent than she would because she looks like she's getting all focused on the wrong thing as well. She's like I said, she's almost okay that Donovan left because it isn't about Donovan at all. It's about how can I make Diana look bad and strip her of her command. Why does it matter so much? If you are in command, you should be able to take care of things and you should be able to put people in charge. I honestly feel like Steven and Diana are a better fight per se, because Steven is less about Diana looking bad and more about he thinks he wants her out of the way because he thinks she's doing a bad job. Pamela just seems to want her out of the way because I don't really know. Doesn't really seem like it's the right. It just feels like
she just doesn't like her.
Jealousy. Yeah, exactly. It's
like Listen, we've all worked with that person. Yeah. I get it, but it could have been better written.
Exactly. Given how they kind of prop Pamela up.
It would have been better if they were sisters.
Ooh, okay. I can see that. That would be good. That could be
because there's always a great reason, perfectly legitimate, fantastic reason to just hate your sister and want to knock them down a notch.
That would make more sense to me. Okay, I'm here. I'm on that. Maybe they are. Maybe their family. We just didn't know it. Maybe they never said that.
I mean, lizards lay eggs. They produce multiple offspring.
Right there. The whole. I don't know. The litter. Probably not a litter, but I don't know what the scientific term would be, but
I'm
whatever the
going to say a
lizard.
gathering because I don't know.
We'll go with that.
Gathering of lizards.
A gathering of lizards. Well, whether that's scientifically correct or not, that's what we're going with. Okay.
A cult of lizards?
In this show, that would actually sound pretty well too. Actually, yeah. Like, let us know what you think out there. Let us know in the comments what you want to call it. What is it?
We won't even look it up.
We won't even look it up. We'll just call it that. Whatever the best one is in the comments, we'll call it that from now on. And we jump back to our Resistance headquarters and get more about Elizabeth, who is now supposedly growing and shedding skin. Which the funny thing is, I got this. My favorite part of this whole thing is it's even abnormal to Willie.
Yes.
And all I know is Willie like secretly a nurse or a doctor or a matron?
Willie is a doula. He has to be, or a nurse, specifically a pediatrician.
Right, exactly.
Willie's a pediatrician.
He must be. He must be. I mean, it's like sometimes you have immigrants. It's like a lot. Like it's kind of a thing where some immigrants, like, or some doctors and scientists, come over to this country and they have to take lesser jobs, like construction jobs or whatever. I kind of feel it's like that trope. That's the trope we have here.
Although we'll come back around to this.
Okay, fair enough. But I do think funny. Willie's like, oh, I have no idea. Like it's like a big surprise that Willie has no idea. Of course, he has no idea.
This is not normal.
Right.
That got me. But yeah, so Elizabeth is already like the size of a 2-year-old, and unfortunately, poor little Godzilla Jr. passes away.
Yes.
And nobody even really cared except for Harmony.
Yeah, that's true. And Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, Elizabeth started crying when Godzilla Jr. passed.
For the first time she cries. Yeah, the first time she cries when she dies. And it's like, oh. But Harmony is a great character for that reason. She's the one who shows the most humanity out of all of them.
Definitely.
By far.
Harmony and Willie.
Yeah, they're a good couple. They're good people. Good people both.
The heart of the franchise.
Absolutely. So they test the baby, the more reptilian baby. And Robert.
It's the phrasing. He says the blood sample from the baby reptile's corpse. Robert, that was your grandson. Like, okay, I think you've gone a little bit chaotic evil scientist guy.
I never even thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way.
Robert is an anthropologist, not a biologist.
What is he doing?
Scientist doesn't mean knows everything about science.
In V, scientist means whatever they need him to know, he knows. That's apparently what it is. Basically.
Like, really, Julie and apparently Willie should be the only people who know about this type of science.
Right. Yeah, if Julie had done this, I'd totally get it. It makes sense. Robert? No, not so much. But he does have the moment he discovers that it's the bacteria that possibly killed him. They don't know for sure. They have to test it. But it's obviously interesting. I think it's kind of a cool bit of writing that you have a more human child and that one doesn't die. And you have the more reptilian child and that one did die. So at least, okay, well, maybe that's something they can use. It does make logical sense to a degree.
But really what the show is saying, thank goodness for fraternal twins.
Absolutely. And they're turning Diana's medical experiments against her. As gross as they were, the silver lining, I guess. But
that's really narrow silver lining.
Very, very narrow silver lining. It's almost like a light gray outline.
I still don't know. What was Diana's intention with this baby?
That is a good question. Like, if we knew how she turned out at the end of this episode, it would make sense.
We do know that she knows Robin got pregnant.
Right. Yes, she does know that. So, but what is she hoping for? I don't know.
But also, it is a little weird on a side note because, like, they really lucked out in that they got Brian to sleep with the teenager right when she was ovulating. Like, yeah. It just gets more and more nefarious the more I think about it.
It does. I'm wondering. I could say that Diana's advanced enough that maybe they had some way to force her to ovulate early or something to that effect. They could mess with her schedule.
It's terrifying.
It is. It's pretty terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. But we go back. We can see Harmony walking in, and Elizabeth is nowhere to be found. Another shed skin. She's all, and we actually see Katie.
Yes,
We see
I
Katie Maxwell.
completely forgot about this. We also see Katie kind of die. She
Yeah,
bounced
Katie
back, but she kind of died.
goes. Yeah, she definitely leaves the plane of existence for a little bit, and then Father Andrew has the same reaction you do, because of course Robert has to give her CPR, and then turns to Elizabeth and says something. They ought to kill that goddamn kid or something to that effect.
Someone ought to kill that damn monster.
That's it. And Father Andrew looks at her and is like, "That's your granddaughter," and he's like, his face. It's kind of hard to read.
Elizabeth was pretty awful going around pete yama, unless you got a doll I want, and then I'll end you. I mean, she hit the button.
You're not wrong. But that's just a funny thing.
Writers, I'm sorry, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, because she's gonna spit venom. I guess like I guess they're trying to say that instinctually she didn't know better at that age. I mean, she is only what 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, so she's learning about things, I guess. But it is a little it was a little far for her to go, considering.
Like, girl, you're gonna kill someone for a doll is your first act as a person. Like, she probably would have played with you. Damn. Give Auntie Katie a chance.
And after that, of course, we flip back up to the mothership, and Stephen and Pamela are hosting a meeting with John. Now, I love this part, and it's a weird reason why, because we see them walking to the mothership together. We see them kind of going to the door, and the camera keeps panning back, and we see Diana around the corner hearing what's going on. And she does this like the snake-like motion, which is kind of cool, where she puts her hand back to like push herself off the wall. I don't know if you remember this or not. It's just like it's a weird, like also she's like to push herself off the wall to move to go to the bridge. I don't know, like it seems like such a random thing for her to do. You'll have to go back and rewatch if you know. It just
I did not notice that. That's
you know what? Audio listeners, I'm sorry, I do have this on. I know I can share this or not. Can I share this, or is it gonna go black? No, it's gonna go black. That's why we can't share the screen. I always, for you guys I know out there, whenever I do a show like this, I kind of always have the show playing in the background, like just next to me without the sound on. So I'm watching it now. I saw it. I was trying to share the screen, but it won't let me share the screen because it's on Amazon.
because it's Amazon. We see you, Amazon.
We see you. Either way, she pushes herself off in a very snake-like fashion and walks to the bridge where I guess you can just choose any room on the mothership to spy on with audio and visuals alike. I mean, I guess that's okay. I guess I would think that Stephen, as a security person, would have kept a meeting like this hush hush and shut down the cameras, that kind of thing. You see that in cops all the time. You gotta shut off the interview cell room, or whatever, so nobody can watch. But Diana goes to watch, and we hear that they're basically trying to push John into getting rid of Diana, or at least making them on her side. That Pamela's going to put Diana just to the scientific side of things, pissing Diana.
John mentions that Diana is his most trusted aide, which I think is interesting. And John is sick of the bickering. John, I hear you. But I do think this is interesting that Stephen mentions that he planted a spy in the resistance. Right. It is painfully obvious who that is. We'll get there in a minute. But it's weird because later then Diana takes credit for that.
Right. It
is. So it's like, so you guys are working together. You know that, right?
Right. Exactly. And the funny thing is, it depends on who's talking about it, because later on we'll get to it as well, where like they don't even use the information given to them. Or Pamela wasn't even going to use the information, even though she's happy that he put the spy in there. It's just this weird dynamic. It's like, well, what are we doing here? And then there's John.
They fail. They're dumb.
And then there's John. Kind of like
lizards are flat brains. Look what happened to the dinosaurs.
That is what happened. I mean, and John specifically is just this like kind of like, don't bother me with this stuff. Just get it done. And then he's like, how is this guy the admiral of the entire fleet? That's why I want. How did he get there? He must.
Well, he lets everybody else do everything.
He has pictures of somebody back home, pictures of the leader somewhere back home, or something to that effect. Blackmail. I don't know what it is, but somehow he's got in charge, and it's scary.
I mean, it's a good thing for us.
The other funny part about this is Diana watches she comes into the mothership bridge, tells the guy, "You're dismissed. You're dismissed from your round." He's supposedly on a shift there. Diana watches this for 5 minutes and then leaves. So I guess that's not an important shift after all. So what happens to the rest of that shift? That's what I want to know. Does this guy come back? Does he know to come back? Is he like what
You
happens to this guy?
know, eventually someone will notice no one's there.
That's the kind of thing. It's
I'm
like, well,
telling you, Diana told me to leave.
Diana told me to leave, right? Sure, she did. That guy definitely got in trouble for somebody. Sure, she did, pal. Diana of all people told you she was gonna watch your security cameras for the rest of the shift. Sure, pal. Sure, pal. Lucky he's not. He's probably in the brig. He might be dead for all we know at this point. But all right, we jump back down to the jail, which is the New Resistance base, and with the wonderful, swelling '80s heroic music, Donovan makes his way back to the Resistance, gives Julie a big old hug, and then he gets a big old reunion with Sean that he already kind of got, but now they're both free, so it's a better reunion. But very quickly, it doesn't last very long because all of a sudden, Sean doesn't love baseball anymore. And
Gee, I wonder who the spy could be.
Ooh,
Gee, I wonder who Diana could have converted.
I don't know. Especially because like Donovan even has the whole thing's like, he has this look on his face, like, oh, okay. What I wonder, and I wish I could ask the writers, like, were they trying to make it secret? Was there like, a thought in their head that people wouldn't know it was Sean, or are they just like not caring? Like, it seemed like they don't even care. It
Yeah,
really
I
makes
feel like
sense.
it's that.
Right. Okay.
Or I wonder if it was meant to be like, oh, we know he's the spy, but they somehow don't know he's the spy.
Right.
It's
But
like a ticking time bomb.
right. The problem is, like, the funny part that is because it would make sense that that's the way, but when Pamela and John and Stephen all talk about it, they never mention who it is. Like, it's almost like they shouldn't be keeping the secret. They should be saying, "Yeah, we converted Donovan's son and put him back in the Resistance as our spy."
Yeah.
So because they don't say that, it's like they almost like want us to not be sure. Or like it went through my head, is like, are we supposed to wonder about Julie still? Is that part of the thing? Is this like possibly
At this
something?
point, it feels like they barely even bring it up now.
That's where this writing problem comes in. Like we don't know, so it's not clear, obviously. So is it a
But
big
also for the conversion thing, it's like kid obsessed with baseball now doesn't like baseball. I'm sorry, Diana. I think you're giving your conversion thing a little bit too much credit. That's not good.
right?
It's real
Yeah.
obvious.
Someone changes like their most favorite thing in the world. I mean, his whole character was based on baseball. When we first got introduced to him, he was talking about Steve Sax and
The
the
Dodgers
Dodgers
hat.
and exactly that Donovan used. So also he doesn't like baseball. That just makes no sense. But okay, after that, they have which is actually a good. Might have just shit on the writers a little bit. I'll give them credit here. The next scene is the exposition. It's basically the Resistance, Robert and Julie, and everybody talking to Donovan about what the bacteria is. And it's a great way for them to tell us the more solid details about what the red dust is, because it's naturally done. They're telling Donovan, they're basically telling us. Even if Ham is there to kind of be a little bit of the anti side of things. I kind of thought that was a good way to do it. They could have done it a much worse way. I thought that was a nice touch for them.
Yes, definitely. And I absolutely love Willie coming in, just being the sweetest little dope, like there to feed the snakes or something. Hello. And then Ham, hey.
Hi. And the funny thing is, too, Willie actually steps up a little bit to Donovan and just say, hello, like, as in glad to have you back. And he does that. Oh my God, his grin is so evil. It's so
It is.
evil.
It's so nefarious. It's ridiculous. And Donovan's just, no, we can't test on Willie. You can't be that evil.
In a cage, out of a cage. What's the difference? Julie's like so scandalous about it. The funny thing is,
it's Willie. How could you speak so badly of Willie? He's like a child. He's a doula. Come on.
The funniest part about it, honestly, is Michael Ironside's complete commitment to it. He's kind of like, I don't get it. Why not? He's completely into it. He's like, what? I don't see the problem here at all. It's so funny.
It is. I wonder what Farber would have said to that, though.
Oh, that's a good question.
They can't always agree, writers. They can't always agree.
That's fair. Next scene is the it feels like they didn't have a whole lot for Daniel to do after killing off Ruby. So we need to get his comeuppance fairly quickly, and we get it pretty fairly quickly.
I love Caleb. That was so great.
That was a great moment. We do have a nice little sequence where we wrap up the whole Daniel and Maggie thing. Maggie and Daniel are having a celebration with Brian and some unnamed.
And who is she? They should have had her have been one of the resistance people too.
I agree. That's what I thought should happen, or be another visitor or something.
Yeah, I was like, is she a human? Who?
Maybe was Diana telling Brian to test out other women after the whole Robin thing? I don't know, but
yeah, that's right. And Ryan, you should be with Diana like you were like a week ago. Who is this chick?
The chick moving on his curve. He's like kissing her. He's like all this stuff. It's like, I don't know. Is Brian actually attracted to human females? Is that a thing now? Or is I don't know. But either way, it was kind of strange because I know for the first like couple minutes of the scene, it's like, we don't know this girl at all. Who is she? But either way, the resistance comes calling with a bunch of them. Ham, Donovan, Caleb. Of course, the funny thing is Donovan's coming. Donovan is probably the #1 guy. He's like the guy that everybody knows.
Every scene with Donovan in public doesn't make any amount of sense.
I mean, Caleb's not known. Ham, a secret guy. He's not known. But Donovan, he's your poster boy.
He is the FBI's most wanted. Right. Like he's Ted Kaczynski. People know what he looks like.
Everyone knows, especially not only everyone. The funny thing is, especially Brian, who is a military leader and a security guy, like he definitively knows.
And honestly, Daniel, who lived in the same neighborhood as Eleanor, Mike's mom, he probably saw him around the hood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
I got questions later about Eleanor, but we'll save them.
Oh, we'll save them. Ham knocks out Brian with a champagne bottle, which is nice. Obviously, the plan here, we find out quickly, is that they need to get someone to test the red dust on. So they choose Brian, which is a little questionable to me, considering we know that he has the same DNA, potentially, as the kid. So I don't know if that's actually a good test subject or not. Because what if it had to be like his DNA that the bacteria affected? We don't necessarily really know that per se. Thinking about it afterwards, they should have checked it out on a different visitor, a completely unrelated visitor, like Ham said, like on Willie, maybe Ham. I'm not saying that. Ham was saying that. I saw your face.
Don't spread the Willie hate.
I love Willie.
Justice for Willie.
Justice for Willie. But then Ham knocks out Brian with the bottle, breaks the bottle, and is going to go on to Daniel like he's like he wants to fuck him up.
He knows Daniel's the one that killed Ruby, and he is pissed. And Daniel has the audacity to say she was a spy. She deserved it. Wrong thing to say, buddy.
Daniel, you are an idiot. You are an idiot.
He's a real dumb boy.
Like, honestly, the character we've seen of Daniel so far, I think he would be the one he would be kissing ass and trying to beg for his life at this point, not saying something like that. Ham is about to kill him. You have Maggie, who's loving it too, pushing the gun right in his back, saying, yes, it's about time to get rid of you. Get rid of you. I already lost Mark. Sorry, I had to throw that out there. Rest in peace, Mark, I guess.
Brad, it's fine.
Look, Brad led. Kmart Brad. That's right.
So, yeah, Caleb has a better idea than just killing him, and he calls Steemit and tells him that Daniel set Brian up to be captured, which is hilarious.
Brilliant. Because this is the kind of fascism thing. It's kind of funny. I was watching a much better written part of the show. I watched Andor the other day with my son. We're rewatching Andor, and I told him it's about fascism. And the episode, I don't know if you've watched it, where Cassian gets arrested, and he's like, he got arrested for doing that when he wasn't actually. He should have been arrested for this. I'm like, that's what fascism is. You can get arrested for just acting peculiar or acting suspicious. You can get arrested and sent away. That's what fascism is. So they kind of like, as a kid, I had the same questions as my son had. I'm kind of like, so somebody can just call up the visitor security, say they saw this, and then that's going to be enough for them? well, yeah, actually, it can be enough for them if they decide to be. It's a great idea by Caleb, though. It is a great idea. And we're going to find out more about Daniel's fate very soon after. But first, they bring Brian back to the jail. Robin sees Brian and is a little kind of like in this, like she's in this very walking comatose state this whole time. She kind of starts walking there and like, you're like, what's going on? It's like a horror movie walk. Let's be honest.
He's been kind of dissociating a bit.
Yes, absolutely. But who isn't dissociating is Robert.
Oh,
who
yeah.
obviously knows who Brian is.
Oh, yeah. He goes feral. I love it.
It was great to see Robert attacks him.
Robert's still the best character.
He is. And Donovan has to hold him back. And luckily, Donovan's definitely stronger than Robert. So Donovan's able to hold him back. Yeah, really. Well, he could have let him get a good shot or two. Would have been nice. I mean,
just one.
Just one. And maybe a body blow, maybe an uppercut. I mean, you could still test on him. He's still going to live.
Yeah, we're going to kill him anyway. Let the man have his cathartic moment.
Absolutely. Which is actually an interesting argument we just had, considering what happens in a little bit. But first, we go back and we get the last part of the chapter for Daniel Bernstein brought in front of Stephen after being tortured. Stephen gives him a couple questions. Daniel starts talking about Maggie, and Maggie's not on their list. So Stephen basically agrees with Caleb that this guy must have done the dude and thought that if Brian was out of the way, that he would be able to be promoted, which is an interesting choice. I didn't realize they could be promoted that high as a visitor youth. I would think there's a level.
Maybe he assumed that he thought it could.
Yeah. Well, Daniel's dumb, so I guess they could assume that. That's true.
I love Stephen's line, "The ambitious have no friends."
Yes, I'm not ambitious. Best part though is the great line after. What are you going to do? So I'm going to transfer you. We're going to transfer you. Give you the opportunity to reflect, rest, to think. And Dana's like, oh, thank God. And then you see the food processor guys walk in, I guess. I don't know what their getup is, like the construction helmet kind of thing. It's like, should they be wearing like chef's hat or something? I don't know. Maybe it's they were actually more on point potentially, but
that makes me think of like that episode of Barry in the first season where the guy comes in and he's like, what? Oh, he just dresses like that. Barry, right?
Right. Where are you going? Where else? On a serving platter. And Daniel screams.
Where you'll serve us best on a serving platter. It was Giving Society, a 1989 film. Classic.
Boom. Very happy. It was a very big fist pump moment for me. We've been wanting Daniel to get his comeuppance for quite a while now, ever since really the original miniseries. So,
and I like that it is so clear that Daniel definitely knows
what's going on,
what these creatures have been up to the whole time.
Right, because that's always a question in your mind, because like that's been thrown out there by Donovan, but we know like Harmony, for example, didn't buy it because of propaganda and lies told by the visitors. Who's in the know? Who's not in the know? Daniel, obviously, at this point, doesn't care. His family's gone for the most part. He doesn't care. He is all in with the visitors, no matter what they're doing. He just figures.
Daniel's living in his home. His parents are clearly not there any longer. Right. So did the writers just say "F this," or are they supposed to like literally not be around anymore?
I don't know. No, they're not, because they do make their one quick appearance at the end. We get the one quick appearance from Stanley Bernstein at the very end of during the final battle. It's Stanley Bernstein and a recast wife of his.
Oh yeah.
It's a quick flash of them like looking up like during the celebration, like they won. I don't know if they're at the same house or they're a different house or what's going on. But we are in wrap-up mode, and obviously they haven't appeared, so we're not going to worry about them, is what the writers said at this point. Unfortunately, because they were one of my favorite parts of the original miniseries.
They were such a pivotal family.
Yeah, it was amazing how much they meant, and that they just got swept aside. But that's kind of how it goes with some of these shows and some of these episodes upcoming. It happens in the series as well, unfortunately.
I wonder if it's because Bonnie Bartlett didn't come back.
It could be. I wonder if that's the case too. Maybe they had a part written for her and Bonnie Bartlett didn't want to come back. And so they said, well, we can't have anybody come back. But then they're kind of like at the end, they're like, well, we could throw Stanley up there with a new woman and at least there'll be a throwback to it, kind of thing, that he's still around, maybe. Either way. But all right, we jump down to the next
To a
part is
great moment.
to a very, very good moment. Robin Elizabeth going to see Brian on her own, stole the jail cell keys, goes in there and has a interesting conversation with Brian. And Robin is definitely still in disassociation mode at this point, barely answering in a very monotone, but introducing Elizabeth to Brian. And Brian doing his best to be charming, doing his best to be, we'll get out of here, you and me, baby. We're going to hit the road and we can go away from the war. But to her credit, and to be completely honest, a little bit against character at this point, Robin doesn't buy into it at all.
Oh no, I think going in, she knew she was going to kill him.
Mm.
I don't think she ever had anything else on her mind whatsoever.
Oh no, I agree. I agree with that. I kind of felt like she would be a little bit easier to be manipulated, though. I kind of felt like she might have had second giving when Brian started trying to put the charm on. Because
I don't know. I do kind of feel like she's a petty teenager.
That's true. And having the reptile inside of her, that might have been the last straw for her. Maybe that could be the case as well. Potentially. Okay, I'll let that one go. But then Robin does use the toxin, and we get one of the great deaths in science fiction, as far as I'm concerned. I just love how it's a little red dust, and he starts having to claw at his face like it's tearing out his insides. His eye all of a sudden goes. That's the interesting part. The eye doesn't pop out. All of a sudden, it just becomes the red eye instead. And then the resistance comes running in. Father Andrew seeing her and calling for Donovan and Julie. Father Andrew taking Elizabeth away, which we're going to learn soon what happens there. And we have an interesting sequence. I did like the death. What did you think about the death? Did you like that death?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I like the tearing the skin away to reveal the lizard skin beneath. I didn't catch the eyes, but they are so weird when it comes to the eyes. Whoever made this had no understanding whatsoever of contact lenses or how they worked. It is honestly simultaneously baffling and entertaining.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I really like the next sequence where they kind of discuss, it's Julie, Robert, Donovan, and Ham. They see the aftermath and kind of discuss who they should experiment on in terms of a person.
Yes.
It is pretty funny conversation between Donovan and Ham.
It's very Donovan and Ham. I love these guys together so much. Like I have heard rumors, and I don't know, I don't want to spread rumors, but I've heard some rumors that they actually didn't get along. Mark Singer and Michael Ironside didn't really get along too well on set for a while. They respected each other, and I remember every time they've been asked about it, they've always been kind of like, well, we don't want to air out dirty laundry, and that they do respect each other, but they kind of have different ways of functioning. But they're professionals, and you wouldn't be able to tell because I really feel they play off each other extremely well.
So in my mind, I'm going Fast and Furious with it. Okay, one of them was stronger than the other, and they just had a measuring contest.
It could be exactly. I don't know who won, but that's one of them definitely won. And
well, we'll see a fight between them later, and I think we'll get our answer.
There you go. Good point there.
I love Ham suggests they use a collaborator and suggests Donovan's mother.
That's a low blow. But another great part about this is Julie then decides, of course, on her own, that she's going to go in and test it out herself. Now, I'm sorry. I love Julie's mindset here to a degree, but at the same time, Julie, you're like one of the few doctors, scientists they have. You're kind of pretty important. We don't you shouldn't be the one to risk yourself, to be completely honest. I get it. You're brave. It's great that you have
honestly, let's be real. They should have taken Daniel.
Yes, that's what they should have done. They didn't think ahead.
And then turn him over to Steven.
Bingo. Exactly.
Oh, wait, no, because then he would know too much. Then they just have to kill him. No, yeah. Too sad.
Oh, too sad, so sad.
But I guess you don't want to portray the resistance as killing him. All right, writers, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're doing.
Could have taken the girl. That's
true. And to be completely honest, there's plenty of resistors that could have volunteered that weren't as important as Julie. Let's be honest.
There's just another collab. Okay, getting Donovan's mom kind of not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea at all. Not a bad idea at all. Too bad Mark died. Anyway, we could have. But Julie does go into the chamber there, and I love Michael Ironside. Just whatever. Donovan's like, oh my God, and I gotta go get her. And tries to get her on. And he's like, where's the key? And Tim's just like, nope, she's got him. I wasn't give a flying crap. He's not get emotional about it at all, which I love. But he does have the great moment. Julie lives through it, and Ham's very excited as Ham can get. Well, we got our hands on some real red dynamite here, don't we?
He's kind of cocky, but very emotionally neutral.
Yes,
which is fun.
Yeah, well, he's just the epitome of the guy. He knows that hard decisions have to be made. He's not going to get emotional about it. He's going to be very logical and rational about the whole thing. 9 times out of 10, anyway. 9.5 times out of 10, really. But it's a good sign, and it makes up for. That's why it makes up for a good combination with Donovan, because Donovan is so emotional and so over the top, and like we always see, he wants to save everybody as best as he can, especially Julie at this point. So, but interestingly enough, this is where I start. Even as a kid, I was a little bit like, okay, so you tested it on one lizard, one human. That's good enough. That's good enough for testing.
Listen, we heard what Elias said. We're on a time crunch.
It's fair. It's fair. Fair enough.
That's
That's
not there yet, but we will.
All right, fair.
He said it well. Caleb congratulated him.
He does, and that's actually one of the best scenes of this episode, which we'll get to. That's actually one of my favorite scenes of the episode. After remembers kind of what it's supposed to be a little bit more. But the next scene is Father Andrew making the cockamamie decision, like the worst decision you could have made. Like writers, I'm not even sure you can really justify it. I don't understand the justification here at all. Father Andrew takes Elizabeth away and brings her to Diana on the mothership.
This man said, I think is he a Catholic priest?
Yes.
Okay. This man said, Catholic priest, nothing. I've decided I'm going to do one of those missionary things. And I'm going to spread the word of the Bible to the aliens today.
And I'm going to bring along this innocent child, mostly innocent child,
who may or may not be a weapon or, used or hurt.
Right. You're going to bring a little kid up to the place where they eat humans.
This is
like
listen, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil. Father Andrew dies, and honestly, good riddance.
Good riddance. Yeah, not going to lie. I actually liked the character of the first episode. The first episode we saw him in the final battle, part 1. I liked him. Part 2, he's on the wrong side of the argument, but I understood the character. The abortion argument, obviously, he's a Catholic. He's a Catholic priest. I get it. But like that's if he was, it was kind of a tough argument. It was a tough character to write at that point. He couldn't write him to be successful at that point. But in this one, he loses my respect entirely. I almost get the idea that he wants to take Elizabeth away because he's scared for her. That makes sense to me. As a Catholic priest, he sees someone who is probably in jeopardy. He knows Robert wants to kill her. He sees that what Robin just did. He's kind of worried for her life. I understand that. Take her away if you needed to. It's not the right thing to do because you're not her parents. You're not a family member. You're just a priest. But take her away and go somewhere else.
That's not more dangerous.
You're gonna go find.
And also, as soon as Diana sees her, she's like, "That's Robin's daughter." Like she knew she was waiting. I have many questions, like a number of follow-ups. Like, why did she know that the kid would be born so quickly? Did she know for sure Robin was pregnant? Why did she want Robin to have a child? Why is she going to take this child under her wing and adopt her? Many question marks. And we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it now. We later see Elizabeth in a visitor uniform. I have many questions regarding these visitor uniforms. Why was there a child-sized one?
One size fits all. It's what Barbara told Donovan in the first episode there, the second episode back in the day. One size just fits all.
That one size is a fit for a 6-year-old? Okay, so I think that they know that sometimes lizards, you know what? This is a co-ed ship. We're in space for a long time. And you know what we might need? A doula. So why was really downgraded to a grunt worker?
That's a good point. Well, maybe they figured they'd have a doula on Earth as well, just in case they'd be needed down in the visitor Los Angeles security headquarters or something. There's females there too. You never know what's going to go on.
It's a little disappointing. Poor Willie could have been doing his nursing doula duties to help the pregnant lizards on the ship. Do they give birth in eggs, or are they lizard mammals?
Well, we will actually find that out in the future.
Oh, I don't remember. Now I'm very curious.
There's an episode in the series that deals with that, so we'll find out. Okay, we'll get there. Don't look it up. Wait until it happens. But I do say you're right. I mean, Willie definitely will have better bedside manner than Diana will. So let's get Willie back on doing his thing. We've already seen his bedside manner. It's wonderful.
But I also love that Father Andrew mentions the cannibalism. He's like, we're very close in relation, genetically speaking. Otherwise, Elizabeth wouldn't exist. So eating us would be tantamount to cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was the wrong thing to say, because that does not make Diana happy.
No, it doesn't. Diana's not very happy, as we find out. But all right, we jump back down to our new base because the father went AWOL. So they got to get another new base. They have bases all over the place. They just have
and I feel
15
like
bases.
This base, because of the lighthouse, I've definitely been there. I think it's out by Long Beach called Port Vincente.
Okay.
I think it was just one of those things where I know this place. I know I've been there. And I could not remember the name of it. It's driving me crazy throughout the whole episode.
It is a nice place. I mean, if you're going to have a base somewhere where you're resistance, it's right on the water. It seems like actually a nice place to relax. I mean, it's not that bad. Much better than the rundown, urine-infested former water processing plant they had in the original miniseries. They're almost on vacation.
It's a really big city. You think they'd want to go, further outside of LA?
You would think so. You would
I
think
don't know. Go to the
valley. We do get that. We get the little exposition. Of course, Chris says something about the father going AWOL, and that's where they move. We get a good, actually, probably Robin's best scene, I think. Well, maybe if you count the Brian scene, but Robin's best scene with Robert, where they start talking about what she did.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the writing. I think they're really trying to develop her character a bit more, but it's just maybe not the right performance.
Right. Exactly. Robert does a good job with his side of things. She still has that kind of like little girl throwing a temper tantrum at like everything. That's kind of like just her one note that she does pretty much. But they do have a good moment. They do share a moment, even though they have the same conversation we just had. Like Robin calls I was like, am I a murderer for doing that? I don't know. And Robert's like, well, we were going to use a toxin on him anyway, so it's not like you were. Is that an answer?
He was a condemned man, Hunty. It doesn't matter.
Right. And it says war. It had nothing to do with the war, Robin says. But it's a good conversation, and they don't answer it. I think it's better that they don't answer it. I think it's better to be left kind of open-ended like that. Robert's like, well,
it's morally ambiguous.
And I think sometimes writers tend to want to answer those morally ambiguous questions, and I think sometimes it's just better left not answered.
I look at it as good for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert does the same pretty much. He's like, you know what? I don't have the answers, but we're going to move on because it's over. So, all right. The next thing we move is Donovan and Sean and Julie again for a little bit. Sean making it quite clear who the spy is even further. Aren't the fifth columnists just traitors to their own people? And Donovan's like, what the fuck? Pretty much.
He's a little bit in denial about it, but literally nobody else is. Just him.
Yeah, Julia's like, she's like, she looks at the whole time like, yep, I see you. I see you, kid. Donovan does not. And Donovan leaves again after trying another baseball thing. Let's try a baseball trick again. Does not work again. And then we get to one of the better moments in the episode for me. It is the 80s action moment. It's Donovan versus Ham Tyler. Donovan sees Elias and Sancho shipping up the red dust or the bacteria.
We note Sancho gets to talk.
He does. He has lines. He's still there.
Yes. And I like that Elias doesn't trust the toxin because historically people of color have really been screwed over by the government saying, no, it's fine.
It's fine. It's okay. But of course, Donovan has Donovan is like, we're supposed to test this out and get the antidote for Martin and company. And so Donovan goes to talk to Tyler. Tyler, of course, doesn't give a fuck about the fifth column at all. He's like, he actually has a great line, like something like, I may bring the town down, but they'll eat it, or something to that effect, which is pretty funny. But Donovan and Ham have a little fisticuffs over the truck as Ham is trying to get the truck of toxin to go out to the next to the resistance bases. Donovan doesn't want it to happen. And I got to be honest with you, while it might not be Roddy Piper versus Keith David and They Live, it might not be that, but it for a TV miniseries of '83, it's not. It's in the ballpark. It's like in the deep left field.
It is definitely in the ballpark, and honestly, I would say this does it a little better than it did in They Live because that scene just goes on and on and on. And I know Roddy Piper is a big guy, but I'm just saying I never got the sense that Keith Dave couldn't take him. I'm saying. And he just didn't want to put the sunglasses on.
Oh, what the hell? Put the goddamn sunglasses on.
Like, it is the most ludicrous scene. I love John Carpenter.
I love it so much. I love Carpenter so much. I love the fact it's kind of like the San Diego Chicken in the Family Guy thing, because it's like they do that over and over. It's like this fight should have been over 10 minutes ago and it's still going.
Oh,
it's
I never feel that way. I'm like, come on, it's better animation.
No, I want it to go, but in reality, I'm kind of like, this should have been over like a while ago. It's still going. Awesome. Oh, it's still going.
I mean, they destroyed the world. Whenever they air the very last episode, it better be end on that chicken and him fighting to death.
Absolutely. That is the way it ends for sure. But yeah, so Donovan
Farber says, should we stop them? And Kevin goes, nah, they're grown. I'm mad at it.
That's my one of the parts about the fights, everybody watching. You have the one guy in the truck.
Everyone reacting.
One guy in the truck is like, hey, my truck, kind of thing. Like his one line in the whole show. And then also Elias, Donovan gets a good, like, I think it's Donovan's the backhand, I think it was. Big backhand, and Elias is like, nice.
Yes, and I love how it ends. Is neither of them win. They both just kind of get winded. Because honestly, that's how a real fight ends. Is that you just get tired.
Yeah, these guys were fighting.
Fights last like 3 minutes because you get tired, especially between adults. It's not going to last long.
They're hurt. They're going to get hurt. They're like sore, and that's what it is at the end. They're both like,
and they're flipping over a truck. They're going all over the place.
Ham's like hitting the truck accidentally. He might break his hand, I think, at one point or close to it. And I do love that.
Mark Cena is like 8 feet tall, and Michael Ironside is not.
No, he's not. I mean, Ham is feisty. Michael Ironside is definitely feisty. But I love how it like winds down first. Like they kind of go off the truck and you see him kind of like start to stop. They still have like a few licks in them. Ham gets one shot in. Donovan gets like one last shot in. They both have their fists up, and then finally just kind of like, all right, we're done. We're done.
Okay, so on a scale of Rockies, this is definitely the first Rocky.
Yes.
Neither of them win. They just went the distance.
Right. They did just go the distance. It is.
And I guess watched all those movies for the first time, and I'm not comparing all movies to the first 6.
Yeah, fair. You just watch them for the first time.
Yes.
Wow. That's a conversation we're going to have off air afterwards. So I'm very curious. But yes. And you can say that Donovan does win, because he does get what he wants. They decide not to send out the toxin until they get the antidote. So Ham backs down enough. So good on you, Mike. You saved Martin and the friends of the resistance at that point. So then we jump back up to the mothership, and that's when we get our first taste of Pray Te Nama. Elizabeth saying Pray Te Nama, and we have no idea what she's saying. But Diana doesn't like it. Diana's like, no, that doesn't happen. We're not doing Pray Te Nama here.
It is not within our fate or our destiny or something like that.
Not in our time or something like that. Maybe it is. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something.
So basically, it's a hard no.
Yeah, and Diana's like, no, we can't do this. Can't do that. But we do learn that Diana is limited. Pamela has said she cannot, because she tries to get a guard for Father Andrew for some reason, which is kind of a weird request from her. She's afraid the Fifth Columnist is going to kill Father Andrew, so he wants a guard on Father Andrew.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Like, this was obviously we need to find a way to tell the audience that Diana has been restricted.
Which you could have just had someone, which happens later anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
it is kind of a weird sequence, but that's it is what it is. We do get to see Diana being a mother, though. She knocks over the play thing, the little play
Yes,
castle.
and I love the quote, which is, "What you work so hard to build, others take great pleasure in tearing down. You must never give them the chance."
And Elsa's like looking at her, watching her. It is actually kind of an interesting sequence. And it's interesting looking at Diana's character. Like that would be how she would raise someone. And
Yeah, like she's not necessarily bad with Elizabeth.
yeah.
Also, I mean, I feel like at this point, the whole conversation with them is, Elizabeth wants to be a vegan, and Diana's like, "Eat the damn chicken I made you for dinner. Okay, I'm tired. I had a long day at work. I got demoted. Just eat the chicken."
She got it. No, I'm not making anything special. This is your dinner.
Eat what everybody else is eating.
Absolutely. But you didn't actually mention, I did kind of want to just touch base on that quick. You're right. All the sequences we have, Diana is never outright like cruel and Diana with Elizabeth. She's actually very low key and almost educational and almost feels like she's almost like a different character. But not in a bad way. I kind of like this. I like seeing her like that.
I
It's
feel
like a
like
different
that's
side of things.
completely in line with her character.
Yeah.
She can definitely be very kind with those whom she likes, and I feel like she kind of sees Elizabeth as like her experiment. She doesn't seem to be sad about Brian,
That's true. Yes.
her father slash Diana's lover. It's fine, whatever.
There's a million Brian's on the ship. I'm
Maybe it
sure.
would have been a little bit interesting if she were the one to send Daniel away and feel a little bit
Oh,
upset that her lover was killed by the resistance. Give her a
there you
little
go.
more motivation.
Yeah, there you go. All right. The next part we get is Donovan meeting up with Martin regarding Martin all of a sudden somehow knows what's going on. Doesn't know the full details, but knows that there is something the resistance is cooking up.
So, does the fifth column have a plant in the resistance?
That's what I don't know
I'm so
about.
confused.
Like how they have any idea what's going on unless the fifth column has talked to Father Andrew and Father Andrew let it slip or something. But that doesn't make any sense either because I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how Martin knows.
Listen, we didn't know this because the writers didn't tell us, but Martin is clairvoyant.
That actually makes as much sense as anything else on this.
And now we learned about the global thermonuclear war.
War Games. That's right. War Games was so popular they moved up for the next year for the sequel here. Yes. But it's kind of cool how Martin. I mean, I like that they learn it from Martin. It makes sense. That part of it makes sense. I just wish we knew how Martin knew to tell him about it. But
Martin knows everything. He's Google.
And Martin never
also
agrees with
he's
Donovan's
clairvoyant.
plans anyway. Never agrees with Donovan's plans anyway. So he's never going to like whatever the plan is. Because I don't.
But
think,
also, like in the first miniseries, he was totally fine with defeating his own people. But in this one, he's like, "Oh yeah, but if we do, they'll probably nuke you. So maybe we shouldn't."
Yeah, and that's
It was
that's a funny point you bring up because
like this whole time.
what is your
that?
end goal, Martin? What's your end goal at this point? Because you're saying you don't like them, but you can't beat them soundly. You only got to half beat them so that they don't nuke you, but beat them enough so that they leave you. Like, what are we doing, Martin? What do you want to do? What do you tell us what to do, Martin? But
It does not make sense. And then, okay, further, I'm just a little curious about the ecosystem. I'm assuming there are not a lot of really small animals any longer. So then I also further assume, because they're eating all of the mice and rats and stuff.
Right.
So I assume that a lot of bigger animals that live off of them, like coyotes and stuff, now they're starving and dying.
Right. Good point.
So listen, I don't want to be mean visitors, but we got to rethink letting you live here.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna figure that out. Ham knew all the time. But
I think I might be on Ham's side. I'm like, okay, fifth colony, go find a different
or be vegan. Or be vegetarian. You're gonna have to be vegetarian, We do find out that Willie is vegetarian later on in the series.
Yeah, also you can do it.
So you can do it. You can definitely do it in this case.
Diana said Prete Yama was not in line. Come on, girl. You can be vegan too.
That's right.
Don't want to. See, the whole time we thought that this was a metaphor, from the first one, about World War II. Really, that's not what this one is about. This one, Final Battle, is about, the righteousness of veganism. I'm standing by that. I'll die on this hill.
Wow. I'm looking at this in a completely different way. I guess I'm on the visitor's side all of a sudden because I am not a vegan. Give me my cheeseburger.
I'll just stay over here with my no, it's fine.
You have fun with that. But anyway, we learn from Martin, and then we get to what I honestly think is probably the best scene, like performance-wise in the episode, which is the debate over global nuclear war. And it is a great back and forth. Both sides have great arguments, except for one person, which I'll get to soon. It's not surprising that Ham and Chris are on the go for it side. It's not surprising. Right. We had to predict those are probably the easiest. It's also pretty easy to tell that Julie would be on the other side. I kind of feel like Julie had to lead up the other side, if only because you needed someone very strong on that side to argue against Ham and Chris. Robert being on that side also feels right as far as that goes. Caleb and Elias fall on the sides that I kind of feel like that they make sense as well overall. I feel like he's aggressive enough to do it, and Caleb kind of is scared about doing it. The question I have...
Caleb's line. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I love Caleb's line of, it's not revenge. It's a one-way ticket to oblivion.
Yes. I love that line as well. The one person I don't like, I'm not going to lie, is Maggie.
Well,
not even sure what her point is.
Discount Brad. She loved Mark for whatever reason, and she's angry. Also, she really hated Daniel. She had to sleep with him. She wants them all dead.
I actually don't know. That's the problem. Is I don't know what side she's arguing for. Like the way she said it, it kind of like, well, you shouldn't even think after visitors did this to Ruby and your husband and your wife and Mark, they made a life living hell for all of us. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, we all know that, but like, are you for the attack or not for the attack? Like, I couldn't tell necessarily what she was arguing. I think she was arguing for the attack.
For the attack, that's what I got.
But it wasn't quite clear. I mean, I don't think that was on her necessarily as much as it was like that. The dialogue was kind of just weird. It was like basically her argument was the visitors are bad. Okay, we all know the visitors are bad. I mean, Caleb does respond in that way. Of course, we know they're bad.
I think her point was I think she was surprised at the people who weren't arguing in the favor. So she was pointing out the losses that they'd suffered to kind of get them on board.
Okay, I can buy that, I guess. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me more because of how Caleb responded. That's what makes it to me. So, but I did think it was kind of weird a little bit, but I do love... Go ahead.
As I mentioned earlier, I love what Elias has to say.
Yes.
That there's just no more time.
That's right.
There's a potential ticking time bomb of nuclear war. Well, not even nuclear war, of nuclear weapon, which could be absolutely devastating, catastrophic. We don't know in terms of like what size they're talking about, or I don't know if they mentioned or they have made a comparison. So they're talking about something that could potentially take out, what are we talking, like LA, the US?
I believe they implied the world. They implied the whole world could go.
How big would that bomb be? Okay.
I don't know. That's what I said. I agree. But you're right, Elias, because it comes from Julie, who does actually make some strong points. So I do like Julie's arguments. He's like, you can't win a war if you're extinct. That's when Elias comes back quickly with the, there's no time. There's no time. Like, we're the last shot for the buzzer. And Julie's like, yeah, exactly. That's right. Now, one person I loved during this entire thing is Chris. Chris just kind of comes with a couple of snarky comments, like Julie at one point goes, we're not fighting the same war that way. He goes, well, yeah, sorry, man, that's the way war works. Basically, that's war has a tendency. That's right, war has a tendency to do that, man. And every time they just see Chris in the background, just going like,
I love Ham and Barber. Like, they're not supposed to be the comedic relief, but boy, howdy, are they?
They really are. And they make for a great chemistry. The funny thing is, like, just looking ahead, I remember because I read the comic book a long time ago. And remember, I used to read like the letters pages, and the comic had Ham and Donovan together. At some point, Chris comes back in the comic as well, and one reader didn't like that they brought Chris in because it took away, in their eyes, it took away it wasn't Donovan and Ham anymore. It was Chris and Ham. I actually like having all three of them there because Ham and Donovan have their own thing, and Ham and Chris have their own thing. I think they're both are worthy and fun relationships to see on screen or on comic book or book together.
Yeah, Ham and Donovan kind of keep each other like in line, so to speak, whereas Ham and Farber or Chris, they have this communication and camaraderie that they have such a great shorthand with each other, and they could just go for it. Whatever it is, let's go.
Let's do it. We're doing it. But then we have at the end of it, actually, I got goosebumps about this. I love, and kudos to Mark Singer. Maybe I'm easily impressed or easily wowed, but I love when Mark Singer took the moment and his line delivery there, because he kind of just has that pause after Elias's last moment, just stops for a second and comes, well, I hate to say it, for once in my life, I agree with Tyler. And then it shows Tyler and Chris are both kind of like this, and they both go like, wait, what'd you say? Like they both like Chris, like, wait, did he just say what I think he said? They're both like shocked.
Really is the end of the world.
Like, this is the end of the world. Exactly. Like I say we attack. And Julie has it, I thought it was supposed to be a secret ballot. And Donovan looks like it's a very Captain America moment. He's like, I'm sorry. I've never felt more strongly about anything in my entire life.
Okay, but wait, if Captain America was made in the 80s, I really feel like he would be Captain America. That is America's ass.
That is America's ass. Mark Singer, honestly speaking, no joke, would have been a great Captain America.
Although,
absolutely.
The issue is no one would think he was a virgin.
Oh, that's true. That's true, because he is smoking. Let's be honest with you. He is definitely. But everything else, I'll give him the Captain America for that. But yeah, I do love that sequence quite a bit. It's probably my favorite sequence, at least non-action sequence in the whole thing.
And I do like that we still have, the Resistance coming together to have these meetings, these conversations before they make their plans, and they do come to agreements before they do.
Right.
Like it is a vote.
It is a vote, and I do think it's funny how Julie can't let go of her pettiness, though, and she announced it afterward. We kind of skip forward. She's like, well, vote is in, and I guess the ones who voted for the attack have won, even though I think we just voted for Armageddon. Like, sassy.
She's petty. Great.
Petty, sassy bitch there. I'm all for it. But of course, this sequence is to finally show us again that Sean is the spy. Sean spies on them, watching the scene unfold, and Julie sees him. Exactly. What? So shocking. What? And Julie even chases him down. And he's even like not even a spy. He's obviously like a programmed robot type spy. He kind of goes back in his bed and is like sitting there.
Oh, this kid, like, this is the yep, I'm not reading my book upside down. I was just here the whole time. I just like, I'm practicing the letters exactly good.
Okay, he doesn't even have a book. He's literally just sitting there like on the bed like, why?
He didn't even think to be pretending to do something. What a little idiot.
Lay down. Even laying down, like laying up. Because no one just sits on their bed just like this. No one does that. But either way. We jump to the next sequence, which I actually like a lot. I think it's funny to me. Although Donovan is an asshole about it. Not going to lie, of course. But he's not. But Julie goes to Donovan.
Julie says the most obvious thing in the history of cinema. Sean's been converted. What?
No. He's not. He's fine.
And, yeah, Donovan is just not hearing it. Don't ever make me choose between my son and you. You'll lose
every time. Very punctuated thing.
He's really defensive about the obvious truth.
Right. Which I get. It makes sense. I'd be upset too if my son was converted. I wouldn't want to believe it either. And that's very Donovan. I mean, I really feel like if the writers ever got one character completely right throughout the entire miniseries from 1 to 5 here, it's Donovan. He always makes exactly the choice that Donovan
very,
feels like
very, very closely behind Tyler.
Yes. Okay. That's true. I think I always had Donovan first because he has more episodes. That's really the only reason why he had a longer time to do it. But you're right. You are right about that.
His character has no arc. He is who he is. Here you go. Take them or
Yes.
leave them. Why is that watermelon here? Just go with it.
Exactly. We jump back up to the mothership, and this is where we get Andrew and Diana's last talk. And yeah, it's interesting because I mean, remember I had when I interviewed Kenneth Johnson, he mentioned this at one point, saying how this is one scene that he was told about. He said he didn't watch much of the final battle because he was very little upset about everything that went down, and obviously so. And he said that he was told about a lot of things that happened, and everything he heard from different people that they made, according to him, they made the wrong choice in every way possible when it comes to the final battle. And this scene was one he pointed out as saying he actually, in his original writing, Diana did actually show more vulnerability here, and that she actually was touched more by the words of the priest. It would have been interesting to see that because she kind of says the words like that, but it's kind of played off a little differently. It's played off like she's still a badass and she's going to kill him and everything else. But it feels like it could have been an interesting take to see Diana at a different side of her. But what did you think about the scene?
Oh, I just did not like any part of it from beginning to end until Father Andrew was met his demise. I like Diana's conversation with Elizabeth afterwards. And I like the quote, vulnerabilities, my dear priest, are exploitable weaknesses. So that's very in line with her character. Right. But I just feel like this girl read the Bible in an hour or something, and she's talking to the priest about it, or this feels like out of left field.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I don't understand Father Andrew's motivations in bringing Elizabeth to the ship at all still. I don't know. I mean, it's cool that Diana is, you think that she would be trying to run some experiments on Elizabeth, see what the kid could do. Apparently, the child walks around with creepy music cues. I don't understand it, but that's just
Children of the Corn kind of thing going on.
Do some research on that. I don't know. Yeah. There's something.
You bring up a good point when it comes to that because Diana was, I mean, obviously she's known in the few episodes we've seen, she's known for having very depraved, disgusting medical experiments like she did on Tony. Even having Brian impregnate Robin was very disgusting. Now she has Elizabeth back, and the most we seem to be doing is a few computer simulations, a few tinker toys, and that's it. That's what you're testing her for at this point. Maybe she's busy with the rebellion. I get it, but like, I feel like there should have been more done with Diana, like strapping her in somewhere, because I think that Diana would want to physically look at the specimen at this point. That seems to be more in line with Diana's character. Let's physically look at this hybrid that we've created.
And what befell of poor little Godzilla Jr.? You think she'd be trying to get her hands on the corpse?
Right. Does she know about that? We don't know. We don't know if she knows about that.
I feel like she and Robert would be in a lab together doing all kinds of weird stuff. I think that'd be that. I feel like they would get some common ground, and that's what's going to end, this cannibalism thing they got going on.
That's the spinoff. The spinoff we didn't know we needed: Robert and Diana in a medical lab together.
Science bros saved the day.
I love it. The next sequence is a funny, very 80s trope. Donovan's not going to believe the woman telling him, but he'll believe Ham telling him. Ham basically says the same thing. He's like, yep, Sean's converted. And Donovan's finally like, fine.
I don't know. That does seem unfortunately in line. Also because he has more of an emotional connection to Julie.
Right. Yeah.
Because deep down, he knows Ham's always right.
That could be the best reason why. He knows that Ham is logical, not emotional, and so that Ham's going to come and tell the truth no matter what he feels. And actually, Ham does soften the blow a little bit. He kind of comes out and says, I'd rather fight you again than have to tell you, and I don't want to fight you. And Donovan knows that. Stroke his ego a little bit. He knows that Donovan whipped his ass, so he doesn't want to do that again. But he gets the point. I think the truth is also, not only is it Ham, but I also think, I wonder if Ham had told him first and Julie told him second. It's the idea of like, now somebody else is telling me he's converted. Somebody else is bringing this to my attention at this point. It's like, okay, well, enough people are starting to tell me.
Yeah, that too.
I know what's going on because he must see it too. He saw it with the baseball thing. He's obviously trying to fool himself. But now with Diane, with Julie and Ham telling him, he's like, fine. Of course, Ham tells him with the way, well, we can change our plan and make it do it. We can use them and use it to our advantage, which Donovan surprisingly agrees with. I mean, I feel like Donovan almost would be like, well, I don't want you to use my son, but maybe in his head he's kind of like, well, if this had to happen, maybe I can make Sean a hero anyway, and Sean can be a hero and not even know about it, kind of thing, or something to that effect. I don't know, but
yeah, we'll get to my question about Sean later.
Okay.
But then we get these really juxtaposing scenes.
Yes.
Father-son relationships.
Yes. Again, my other favorite quick scene in this episode was this one, especially because it brings back the original miniseries. This is obviously seen father and son. It's Caleb and Elias together. Now, Caleb and Elias had very strong scenes in the first film, obviously with Ben, the brother, as well. The first couple episodes, their role in the final battle has definitely been much more of an action-oriented type thing. They had the moment in the medical center where they kind of had that little tidbit of stuff. This is the best moment I think they have together. They finally have that character arc because obviously Elias was the disappointing son in the first episode, the drug dealing hoodlum, as they say, whereas Dr. Penn Taylor was the doctor, and Elias was the disappointment. Caleb comes up to Elias, and Elias is cracking jokes about drugs, and Caleb's like, just want to talk to him, and Elias jumps on him. He's like, you know what? I'm just joking, Dad. I'm just joking. You always have to jump down on me. And Caleb like kind of takes that moment, realizes like, you know what? That I deserve that. That's true. I do always come down on you. It was a great time seeing Caleb have that moment where he's like, you know what? I disagreed with you. You said it well. I was damn proud of you. And I was like, yes. Good for you guys.
Hugged it out.
Yeah.
This is what I've been needing between those two guys.
Yeah. It's a lovely time for them. And at the end of since this is the final battle at this point, it was good to see them make their peace as we go into the final battle of the final battle, so to speak. Next bit is, of course, Donovan and Sean.
Yeah.
And Donovan still not wanting to believe it, trying to look at it, but he knows it's true. It's a good touching moment. Sean, the kid who plays Sean, is not a very good actor. I'm not gonna lie. He doesn't sell it very well.
What?
I'm sorry. Already that he was directed to act like a robot. I know he's converted, but he is a little too robotic for me. But Mark Singer pulls it out. Mark Singer pulls out the great little moment where he just looks at him a little bit. He shares that moment. He wants to tell him more, but he can only tell him so much. But it's a nice moment for Mark Singer. What did you?
Yeah, definitely. I like Donovan essentially just tells Sean that he loves him, then Sean kind of blows him off. It's a very quick scene, very necessary scene. I like the juxtaposition between this and the very lovely father scene moment we just discussed between Caleb and Elias. And I love that it immediately cuts to Sean eating ice cream, I think, at his grandmother Eleanor's house with Steven telling them the plans as he knows them.
Yes, it's the chocolate cake that's her likes as well.
Honestly, I would tell everything I know for some chocolate cake. Let's be real.
I mean, the cake looked good. I'm not going to lie. Absolutely. And Sean does tell the original plan, which was the original plan that he spied upon. They have now since changed the plan, which we're going to get to. I think we're going to get to the changed version of the plan, which is an interesting change, of course. But yeah, it is what it is at this point. I think this is the last we see Sean at that point. I think this is the last time we see Sean the whole episode, really.
Yeah, because I had a question. What befell Sean?
What befell Sean? I mean, we find out later on, but it's interesting. Interesting enough. I don't know how it happened, but I know in the novelization, like I said in the novel, I think I might have mentioned this in one of the episodes earlier, Arthur comes back and Arthur and Sean go out somewhere driving and watch the balloons rising.
Nice.
Like Arthur sees the balloons, and so it's kind of like, oh, cool. So that's the last time we see him there too, though. So no. Interestingly enough, there's no reuniting scene with Donovan and Sean at the end. Like you kind of expect that to happen as the happy ending in the 80s sci-fi. We don't get that. So, but that's okay. That's okay, I guess. We move into the next sequence where Martin has taken a bunch of the fifth columnists and uniforms and weapons and all. They're all in now, but they have a big Skyfighter shuttle thing. They land it right where the resistance is. I guess they must have disabled the tracker and stuff like that, but it's still kind of a big piece of equipment to land there.
The mothership is over LA. They can see. It's fine.
Yeah, it's exactly. I was like, okay. I am distracted, of course, by the great humor by Ham and Chris, or at least there'll be no rats in the dorm now.
I love Chris and Martin.
So good. They're so good. The whole thing is just so funny. I like them together. But it's good to see Donovan and so you get to see Martin with the crew now. It's definitely the first time we get to see Martin really interact with anybody who's not Mike or the little bit with Ham. Getting to see Martin with Julie, which is nice. We heard they had conversations.
And before. Martin and Willie.
And Martin and Willie, they are good as well. Now, the next sequence is one, as I mentioned before, that just confuses me. Diana goes up to Pamela and talks about Sean's report, who she supposedly has access to because she's the one who converted Sean. I don't know what the idea is necessarily, because Pamela seems confused that she should know about this information. But I don't understand Pamela at all here. Like, you know, Stephen,
understand the whole thing.
You put Sean in the spot as a spy. Sean tells Stephen the plan, and they believe it. Good, I get that.
Stephen did that.
What was that? I'm sorry, what?
I think Stephen had done that.
Yeah. Sean told Stephen the plan. And so Stephen, I would think, reported to Pamela, who last we knew, Stephen and Pamela were on the same side.
Yeah.
And were on the same page. But Pamela's like, I like you, but I'm not going to believe this report from a boy, from a converted kid. Like, it would make more sense if we had a scene between Pamela and Stephen, where Stephen can come to Pamela and like, this is what Sean is reporting, and Pamela goes, yeah, I don't believe it. They're too good to something. Because otherwise, this whole like line of command doesn't work.
Yeah, it's weird. Stephen worked so hard. He was so excited, and we see the steps that they go through
right
to do this. And we knew that Pamela had that Diana had converted him. So clearly, they still are working together throughout all this. But we also see that Stephen's working simultaneously with Pamela. So it's just like there's too many inner workings. It's confusing.
And Pamela and Stephen had always been
together.
True. I mean, Pamela and Stephen had always been like this on the same side the entire time. So all of a sudden they're not. When did that happen? I don't know. Either way, but we don't have to worry about that for too long. Because Diana has enough, and she comes in and kills Pamela, and basically later on blames it on having a fifth column guard.
Yeah. She's a woman of science. She prefers a direct approach.
Right. She foolishly chose a fifth column guard. I guess that's the scapegoat you can use no matter what. Now anything goes wrong, chose a fifth column guard. Fifth column did it. They didn't do it. No cameras, or I guess the cameras that go into every office or every learning don't go into Pamela's office. This is what I'm reading.
You have to be listening in at the time. The guard was clearly on a different channel.
He's still actually on break. He still thinks Diana's watching it.
He was never called to come back in. How's he supposed to know? Unlike Diana and apparently Martin, he doesn't have any clairvoyant powers.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's why we need a Martin spinoff to figure out what was going on there. All right, go back to the Resistance headquarters. They start taking the fifth column, start taking the antidote. Of course, there's a great little Martin Willie back and forth there. Martin, I've tasted worse. Willie, when?
That is a great scene. I like it. I wish we had more scenes like that between those two, because I think it would be really quite fun.
I really think that's actually a missed opportunity that they could have done with this series, and I don't want to go spoilers in case nobody's watched the series. If you're watching along before we do our episodes, there is a missed opportunity that Martin and Willie should have gotten a lot of time together on the weekly series, because it would have been interesting to see Willie as the doula, or the non-soldier at least, and Martin as the soldier. They kind of have an interesting comparison or different viewpoints on humans and on visitors as well that really could have explored. Missed opportunity. That's all I'll say about that. After that, we jump to the romantic music again, and Donovan and Julie having their reuniting moment. Donovan
They
and Diana.
apologize to each other.
It's all good. It's all good. It's I gotta say, it is definitely the love music again. I don't know. We mentioned this before about the score, how like the composers are Joseph Conlon, Barry Dvorak, and Dennis McCarthy. They have some great score moments, and they have some very 80s questionable score moments, and usually surrounding love, and the things of that nature.
And Elizabeth.
Right. Exactly. Um, all right, we jump back up to the mothership, and Diana and John are there, and Diana just proves again, at least they've written John to be a bumbling fool, so it's no surprise that Diana is able to easily manipulate her, saying, "Yeah, well, Pamela's dead." Well, and John's like, "Well, we were doing this without my authority then." "Oh, well, Pamela started this before she got killed," and John's like, "Oh, okay, well then that's okay there then." So it's just look conversation is like, God, John, you are a fool. You are an idiot. How are you in command?
And how is he not questioning why a little 6-year-old girl is in the control room?
That's the even better question, is that because John doesn't know anything about this as far as I know. She's just hanging out there watching them, watching the whole thing. 6-year-old in the most secure place on the
She
mothership.
must be in a STEM system. She is advanced.
Man, wow. Maybe Diane told him off screen it was bring your daughter to work day or something. I don't know. Either way, so they plan to kill the resistance off with their, but they also they introduced the global thermonuclear device. John doesn't seem very interested in it, but Diana. It's funny how Diana, as an '80s villain, almost seems turned on by it. She's kind of like,
Yeah, it's not a bit much. It's a lot much.
she is excited. She's like almost wanting them to lose so they can use it. That's what it feels like.
I really just don't get this woman at all.
She is evil and she gets off on violence and gets off on death, I guess. And then we jump back.
But it seems like the visitors want to harvest water and food, but if you destroy the planet, you're not going to get any of this. So clearly, she doesn't even care about
The
like the
mission.
mission statement of the visitors. Like she's just in this for, I don't know, kicks.
That's exactly it. Figures out they must have a backup plan somewhere. They'll go get some ice caps or something. They'll go to Mars and get
And
the ice
how
caps.
many planets have they harvested?
That's a good question.
I don't want to spoil, but if you know who the Viltrumites are, I'm just saying it does give a little Viltrumite.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, all right, we jump back down to headquarters. We get to see everybody kind of getting prepared. Martin telling Caleb how to use a visitor laser rifle, which is kind of cool, seeing getting the interaction. Ham being surprisingly friendly with people.
He's on a mission now.
That's true. Maybe he's in his happy
You need to work
place.
together when you're on the clock.
Yeah, maybe just wants to keep the morale up, kind of keep things loose. You don't want them all tense up.
He definitely doesn't want any of them to die.
Yeah, definitely. He might not like any of them, but doesn't hate any of them. So,
And he is good in a leadership role. There are those people who, when they're in a leadership role, they can be very bossy and assertive, and that can kind of distract people.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's the kind of person who knows that. Maybe he was like that when he was younger and he's learned from that. So now he always has that level of calmness, which is very good.
Good. Yeah, it's absolutely a good point. And like, because he can definitely put people off when it comes to debating, but he does have you kind of do believe in him because he doesn't know what he's doing. So you kind of have faith that he's going to bring you home, so to speak. But here's a question I had, and a question I have, and I don't know if it's poor planning or what. The idea is the plan is we're splitting up the teams. They're doing. Well, we're going to get to the balloons in a second. There's a balloon side, and there's the attack on it's the Los Angeles security headquarters of the visitors, and then we have a crew that's going up to the mothership to try to take the mothership over and prevent the global thermonuclear war. I would almost feel like you'd want your best guy. Ham is your best guy. Ham is your military guy with all the experience, and he is the smartest, most strategic one they have. I would think you would want him on the mothership to prevent the thermonuclear war. I feel like almost anybody
I
else.
feel like he doesn't know anything about computers. I think it's Farber. It's Chris you would want.
Well, not
He's
necessarily.
like
I'm talking about
explosives.
getting to
Oh.
the even getting to the bridge, like taking over the mothership. You want
Well,
Ham and
I
Chris to
mean,
take.
Donovan has been living up in that ship for like a year. He
Donovan can
knows
get
every vent.
well, if it's about events, Donovan can get them to from the landing bay to the
He
van, then
knows
no problem.
everywhere. It's fine.
I just kind of feel a little bit that Ham and Chris almost should have been on the mothership, but I guess in that way, you knew Donovan has to be on the mothership, and Ham and Chris are on the mothership. Who's going to lead down there? I mean, you could have put Julie leading the Los Angeles base, but then you kind of got to have Donovan and Julie together at this point because they're not going to leave each other's sides. So I guess who would be left? There's nobody left to do it. They're not going to have Robert Maxwell lead the attack. Robert's not the anthropologist, scientist guy,
And
not going to
also,
lead the attack.
we had Taylor out with the balloons and then back at the headquarters, which makes me wonder, like, how far away was that? Because if you want to get out to the desert, it is a little bit of a drive
Yeah.
from the city.
You know what? That's a great point because, like, they leave in the middle of the night. They get to the balloons. It's like just dawn. It doesn't take that long for the ship to get up to the mothership. So it's kind of it is a weird timing thing. We don't know exactly what's going on time wise.
And also, like when they first leave, it's like the sun. It's like just when the sun's starting to hit the horizon, and
Right.
it's still dark out, but starting to get kind of light.
Right. It's like 5:30 in the morning kind of thing. Maybe.
But the sun is maybe like 7. Stuff's still dewy and misty when they get the balloons up. I don't know if you've ever worked with hot air balloons. I have. Those things do take a while to go up, and man, I would not want to be any one of those people because those things are loud. They're not fun to be in. I don't know.
I'm glad I have your expertise because I have never been involved. I've never been anywhere near a hot air balloon.
So I've only worked with them once for like a festival. It was not. I mean, they're cool looking.
Okay, yeah.
Not super fun. And then like a couple of them got like stuck in power lines. It was not great.
Well, that's not good. That's not good at all.
It's like you really gotta know. You can't you really have to know how to fly them. Like you can't just like get them and go. Like they're not that easy.
And then let's talk about that because there's a shit ton of balloons and they're worldwide and there's like thousands of them. So the resistance have like thousands of resistance members who know how to fly hot air balloons, I guess. What was this plan?
I like to think that there are circus people all over the world who got in on it, who said, we're not going to survive this fascist takeover because we're the, I'm using air quotes, freaks. We're going to need to get on board this resistance.
Okay.
You need a high flyer for anything. It's like, I'm just very curious about how they got all the hot air balloons and buy them and the stuff that I don't know what that is.
I mean, Ham has a guy. Ham has a guy. He always has a guy. I would buy that, absolutely.
But also, I don't know. Do they have hot air balloons everywhere? That is a dumb question.
I don't know. I really don't know. I never thought about that.
How popular are hot air balloons?
In the 80s, maybe more. I mean, I remember the most hot air balloons we had, the Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol. There's hot air balloons in that. But yeah, it's a good question. It seemed like an interesting choice. We went from the jets dispersing the toxin, which kind of at least made a little bit of sense, although not really when you think about it, because if they had the jets go up with the mothership to shoot the jets down, and that'd be easy. But I don't know what the plan was necessarily. But
also, okay, so if you shoot one, they shoot one down,
yes.
And because that spreads the bacteria, because when they shot it down, it opened up the toxin and it fell to the ground. Bacteria spreads, it grows, it multiplies. So it's already started a chain reaction. Yeah. So we also see later that they get helium and balloons and put the toxin in the balloons, which will eventually pop. So I feel like that's really all they kind of needed to do. Or they could have just walked around and just started spreading the toxin. Like they didn't need to go in the air at all. It didn't in any way, shape, or form need to be an aerial attack whatsoever. All you needed to do was hit up the water supply and hit up and just start walking and spreading it. Or they could have, I don't know, put it in air cannons. Or there was like so many other options that they didn't need to do it the way they did it.
Yeah. I mean, visually, it was kind of cool seeing a bunch of hot air balloons.
But also, the shot of the hot air balloons over the city was not great.
No, no, it wasn't. You're not wrong.
And
It
then
was
it immediately cut to a still of Los Angeles with the ship imposed over it. Was also not great. I'm like,
not
"Oh,
great.
you know what? All this money went to the parachuting budget."
This is where skydiving comes back to bite him in the ass. That's right. And anyway, we jump to the landing bay with Martin Donovan and company. Maggie's there, Julia's there, Willie, Harmony, Caleb. They're landing. It's a very Star Warsian. They have the codes. Many Bothans died for these codes, I guess. It's an old code, but it checked out um, moment. Now, there's something I don't get here. I feel like I'm nitpicking a lot of this because I do have a lot of fun with this, but there's a little thing I'm kind of just like, answer me this. Donovan goes up. He's supposed to bring his log or whatever to the guy who checked
Guy
in.
working the landing bay.
Working the landing bay. He comes in. He's got the visitor vocoder thing on. He checks it before he goes in. Says like something. Here's my code or whatever. Hands the guy the log. Then punches him, knocks him out.
Yeah.
Turns off the cameras. Okay, so I get what they're doing. Then throws off the vocoder. Like, are they things so cheaply made that they can just kind of go, "Oh, I don't need this anymore"? Like, I feel like that's an equipment you want to keep. Like, if you don't want to sound like it, you throw it in your pocket or something. What the hell?
But also, I just thought it was dumb that they had him use it just to immediately punch the guy. That's one thing. It was so pointless. Because they use it only one other time before when they're driving through the gates of something.
Right.
But they made such a big deal about Ham Tyler getting them that I thought they would be used more.
A lot more. I think that might be what it is. Like we only end up using that thing once. Maybe we should find a way to put it again. All right, we'll put it on Donovan for a second. It's a landing bay. Okay, sounds good.
But it was so pointless. It
was, but it's okay. We get the resistance. Donovan starts attacking, and we get that great shot we talked about off air. It's a shot in the miniseries. Donovan kicks the guy off the catwalk, jumps down on the Skyfighter, lands in a crouch, slides down the Skyfighter where everybody's shooting him, and lands crotch first into a guard wearing a helmet.
Afterwards, Iris wrote, "I really hope he was wearing a cup." Otherwise, and not the character, the actor.
Yes.
Like that looked painful.
Yeah, I was like, "How?"
I don't know, man. I've been on a motorcycle and I've done something kind of similar, and it's painful.
Gotta hurt, dude. Donovan, we just talked about that's gotta hurt, my friend. But
hey, this man gets in a lot of fights. He can take a punch.
I guess so. All-out battle that ensues. This is what they spent the rest of their budget on. All the laser blasts, the guns firing.
There was one scene where one of the visitors, the actor, literally does a in midair flip back down, and he lies down. At first, I thought, "Oh, he's hiding," but then he doesn't move. So I'm like, "Oh no, I think he was supposed to have gotten hit by a blast, and they didn't edit the blast in."
I might have missed that, but
I watched a lot of action movies, and you definitely see sometimes where someone was supposed to have gotten hit, but they didn't like edit it right, and so you just see someone flying off, and you're like, "Oh no." It was great. He does this really great flip, and that you could tell that they were holding on it. It's got a still cam to do it. It looks fantastic. That guy gave that flip his all, and he landed into a death sentence. Like this man landed 6 feet under, and they didn't put in a blast.
I'm gonna have to find that. I didn't know that. I have to find that again. That's funny. I will say, to continue our Star Wars talk about that before, it's very true to life over the Stormtroopers, because the Resistance can hit everything, and the Stormtroopers can hit nothing, even though they're 2 feet from each other.
Unless they're in the fifth column.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It's the good guys.
Martin's pretty badass. So we finally really get to see him in action.
Yeah, it's funny because we never did get to see him, and he actually has a great little stance and everything else. I like his fighting stance. There's like a little thing he's got going on there with his arm. He's like got his arms going, his hands are up. It's good style. It's good style.
Yeah. And we're using those bullets that Ham Tyler got for us that can penetrate them.
Yeah, so you have some lasers, but yes, Kayla has the M16 that's working very well, obviously. Good for them. And then we shift down to the LA attack. And Ham and Chris have a little mortar situation, and they're again having fun with each other. Put this one on the front porch. No problem. Starts throwing bombs left and right. I love Ham and Chris together again.
Yes.
Red dust is flying everywhere. Stephen and Eleanor retreat to the inside where all the rest of the resistance, all the laser guns went to the mothership, by the way.
Yeah, is Sean there? I have a million questions. Is Sean there? Question mark.
That's a
More
good
to the
question.
point, I'm really confused. So they're at the headquarters. Is that a different house than Eleanor's house, or is that Eleanor's house?
See,
'Cause
that's what I
back and forth.
wondered. When I was a kid, I thought it was Eleanor's house.
I did too.
Later on, after watching it a while, I believe it's not Eleanor's house. I think it has this is the place where Julie was held, and they had those laser where Ruby was killed, and they had they had the things on the outside or whatever. I think that's where this is. But I understand the confusion. I do think the author of the book put that scene with Arthur and Sean in her book so that you know that he's not there. I think that's, but you're right. And the episode that we're watching, which we have no way, as far as we know, Sean's in there. He's somewhere in there at this point. Now, speaking of like kind of gaps in a way, to a degree, there is this one sequence here. Again, I wish I could show it, where all of a sudden the bomb goes off, flashes, and then it flashes up to the side after Robert Maxwell comes in running and everything else. And the laser blasts are flying left and right. And all of a sudden, they have another explosion after Chris sets off another explosion. And all of a sudden, it jumps to like the second story. The visitors are like kind of like the red dust is starting to get to them because the mortars have red dust in them. And we get this shot up there, and you have the visitor swastika flag. And then we get this slow motion shot of these two visitors falling off the balcony. But when we jump to the shot, it's the guy is like hanging off the edge of the wall. Like I'm trying to show that. I wish I could just pull it out. If this is the balcony here, like there's a guy with his legs here, like he's pushing off the wall, not even close to the balcony. He's got his hands up like he's body slamming the other guy off off the top of the balcony. And I'm like, how did they even get into this position? I don't understand how this happened. Like this is obviously some kind of weird setup.
Listen, they're lizards. They don't have the same type of skeletal system we do. They're very bendy.
Must be.
And gravity works a little differently with them.
It must be because it was so weird. It was such a setup.
Sometimes extras be doing real crazy stuff.
Sometimes extra be extra.
That they do. If you've ever watched a movie a number of times, I would recommend don't pay attention to the main characters. Watch what the extras are doing.
That's a good call.
It's a whole different movie.
And sometimes it's actually far more entertaining than the actual movie. All right, we jump into the central part of the building, and Stephen is panicking, leading all the information in there. Obviously, that's what it looks like he's doing. He pleads Eleanor for help, and Eleanor runs out. And it seems like Eleanor, I questioned it myself when I was a kid. Is she just turning code again and becoming trying to become a resistance fighter, or is she just trying to buy time for Stephen? Because
oh, I read it as neither. She's like, don't hurt me. I'm innocent.
Well, I'm not turning into a resistance fighter. I mean, kind of basically turncoat. Like, I'm okay. I'm being prisoner. They're in there. That's the guy you want in there. You can save me, kind of thing.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
The leader has been holding me prisoner. And then Stephen, of course, shoots her in the back. And we are robbed.
His last act.
His last act to shoot Eleanor in the back. We are robbed of a Donovan and Eleanor reunion, which at this point, which is a little sad. I kind of want to see, because they had some great moments together as Donovan explained what was going on, and Eleanor basically was a bitch to him, and I kind of would have liked to have seen something at the end between.
But I also think it's important that none of the resistance could kill Eleanor, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's absolutely pivotal. Because if they got back, they'd really have to cover it. Ellen, your mother, I don't know.
Was she there? No.
Robert definitely didn't shoot her.
No.
Yeah.
Hold on. Not. They go in, of course, afterwards, even trying to run away somehow before, but Chris shoots the guard, And then we get the great moment of Steven getting his comeuppance for everything he's done. Ham is extra with the killing sequence here.
Yes.
Just
I
takes
wrote sort of needlessly brutal, but okay.
but I like it. It's a little bit of a waste where it does takes the whole package and pours it just completely on his face, to the point where Steven is dead so quick he can't even really. Oh, very rarely tears a little bit off. I think and that's it. But I don't think he actually even tears anything off. He just kind of like goes and then he's dead. Interesting enough, another part of the novel, which we'll talk about when we read it, Ham does later on tell Donovan in one of the novels. Oh, it's in this one, or if it's one of the ones later on that he kills, he killed Stephen for Donovan. Like he got revenge on Stephen for killing Eleanor. That's part of what happened, supposedly.
Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. I'm good with that. Okay. After that, we jump back up to the mothership, and Donovan, Julie, and Elias run into Lorraine.
Lorraine, who is not Barbara.
Not she runs into they run into not Barbara, that's what you can call her. We have a dime store Brad, and not Barbara. Now, why Barbara and why not Barbara didn't join in with Martin when they all left, I guess we don't know, because having not Barbara helps them, I guess, having someone on board. But here's the question now I have. Why wouldn't Martin be going with Donovan, Julie, and Elias at this point? Martin's on the bridge.
I have no idea. A lot's happening. People are running around.
We joked about Donovan knowing the vents and being like, how does he know how to get to the bridge? Like, I'm sure maybe he told them.
Martin comes back.
I would think Martin would be like, let's go. But this that's the funny part that comes into play in a couple of minutes. Because he doesn't go. It's just Donovan, Julie, and Elias. To meet Lorraine. They get pinned down.
I figured Lorraine knows where they're going.
Right, but Donovan, Julie, and it almost feels like they run into her almost accidentally.
She's looking for them because she had the equipment that they need.
That's true. But like, how did they know where they'd be? Like, I get the message to her. I guess. I mean, I'm looking into it too much. I get it. Sometimes
she was wandering around the vents looking for them. They were going to find each other eventually.
Not even there.
I like to think that the ship just has a really big circular hallway, and so they were just bound to run into each other.
Maybe they have like a bunch of circles, like it's like a smaller circle each time, kind of thing. Maybe I get that. I do have the big 1984 decoder computer though in there, which is nice, of course.
Big dark box that does stuff.
It does stuff. The big box that does stuff. I like that. Now everybody gets pinned down. More guards show up finally. They get some people back. Lorraine, or not Barbara, shows you just like Martin and hates Donovan's plans, or just his plans. This is ill-conceived plan. But it's a nice little action sequence again. It's actually one of the more famous action sequences that we know of. It's this great moment during the battle where Julie just shoots a visitor like in the face, and like the skin just comes off, and he just slides down the hall with lizard face. It's one of my favorite like iconic like moments they have in there. But beyond that, the worst thing happens. Harmony gets shot.
PLD. I erased up my memory.
Poor Willie.
I literally wrote, "Oh my God, Harmony was shot. Poor Willie."
Poor Willie, who does like right away shoot the guy who shoots her, but then has to like try to. He has like it's like, don't die, Harmony. It's like.
And Willie tells Harmony he loves her and he won't leave her. And I think that's the last we see of them. Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. And
how dare the writers? We needed at least another shot to know they were both okay, damn it.
They're both okay. I don't think they are. Because she went down and she kind of went limp. I don't know. I don't think.
How could they do that to Willie?
I know. Oh, you'll be happy to know. In V the Second Generation, Harmony's alive.
Hey.
Because we retconned about the battle. So what we get there. And the next part, we go back to the LA side of things, and they're all celebrating at this point. The funny part is that Ham, they shoot down the visitor flag. Yeah. But did you notice in the background, Chris, like Ham and Robert are having a conversation, Chris is like celebrating it up with some unknown Chiquita. The chicken like jumps in his arms, they're kissing and they're like going at it like in the
Hey
background.
man,
I'm
when
like,
you've taken down an alien race that was trying to eat you, sometimes you don't have sex right before you die. Sometimes you have it because you live.
that's right. That's exactly what it was. It was a little bit of a let's get it on moment in the background. I never noticed when I was a kid, but I was like, I watched it again. I'm like,
I did not notice that at all.
just a random girl. I'm like, okay, cool. No idea who she was, but she was like, maybe she was the girl with Brian. Maybe she was Resistance player. We didn't even know. But it was humor. It was humorous to me because they're Robert and Ham are talking about, oh, we did it down here. Did they do it up there? But in the background, it's all Christmas.
Yeah, it's not going as well up there.
No, it's not.
Until
Caleb
just picks up this big, I don't know what it is, funnel
hose thing
that they've been using to spread the toxin in from the mothership. And he picks it up and just sprays it all over and like very Scarface. Say hello to my little friend or my red toxin.
Exactly.
And he kills all the visitors that were attacking
great.
them quickly. Like, bro, you couldn't have done that before they shot Harmony. It's fine. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, well, we'll deal with that later, Caleb. But so it also happens. It actually helps out Donovan and Company too, because Donovan and Company they were putting the dust in the vents. Donovan and Company are pinned down and not going to make it until finally the dust happens to hit where they were and kills the aliens that were pinning them down. Like they got to say, the funniest part about that, I don't know if you noticed this as well either, but the guards like run at, like, they finally get to the point where they're pinned down, and the guards like, we got them, we're going to bum rush them now. And they start to rush where Donovan and Julia are and everything. The dust comes down, and I'm not sure why. The red dust basically acts like a clothesline. Like the guy in front, like gets hit with the red dust, and like he like acts like he like slides back. Like it's like a big like pratfall kind of thing. Kind of like,
no, I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
The dust comes down. Like I can see him like stumbling forward and coughing, but he acts like he got clothesline. Basically, it's like a big. It's like that's not what the dust would do, dude.
That man, extras. I'm telling you. Love them. I love these stunt guys.
That's so funny.
Like sometimes they're so well thought out, and sometimes they are not.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. They want to get on camera. It is what it is. Now here's the extra part.
Maybe this is a real life thing. Maybe they're like, let's just sprinkle all this red powder, and maybe he just slipped.
That could be. That could be. That potentially could be. Now, here's what I was talking about last time a little bit. After that, they start running to this corridor. All of a sudden, Martin shows up. Like they've been like moving towards the base. Martin's been in. We just saw Martin in the previous shot on the landing bay. Martin's just suddenly there going, oh, they sold this room off. We're going to have to go this way.
You know how Martin do. Clairvoyant.
Martin's fast. He's also very fast.
He can just teleport himself.
I guess so. The secret powers of Martin.
Maybe I was wrong about Father Andrew. Maybe there is a god, and it's Martin because he is apparently all powerful.
Oh my God, Martin is God. That could potentially be it. Oh my God,
that would be so funny.
That would be pretty funny. Martin, the whole time, God's like, your plan sucks.
Maybe he was Diana's right-hand man because he is like Elizabeth, except with a different race that the visitors visited before. And maybe also that's why he started the fifth column. See, now that's a good story.
He's seen it before. That's right. It could be very well what it is. Things where we're learning about new spin-offs that should have happened or could have happened. But all right,
unnecessary backstories. I write them.
I'm here for them, and I'm here for them. So I get back into the bridge area, and that's when Diana does shoot one down, and they have her little conversation with John. John is such a child. He's such a child. Well, you just shot one down. It's like you're so petty. You're more petty than Diana is at this point. That is exactly though where we do get the Bernsteins. The Bernsteins. We get they start showing them all the balloons are growing up. The dust is coming down.
Yeah, I remember that scene now. It's kind of forgettable. And honestly, at this point, I feel like they weren't going to show them before. It's kind of weird to show them now.
Agreed. I felt like it was such a weird choice to have them on for literally 2 seconds. They're on screen for 2 seconds. Like if I could almost understand it if Bonnie Bartlett had come back or something like that. Like at least it's the two of them. But to have Stanley in there with a new woman for 2 seconds. Like, who are these guys? Who are these people?
It's very strange. Or maybe they're showing now that Daniel's dead, they're liberated, and maybe they've just been locked in a cellar the whole time or something. No, it's California. There aren't cellars. Attic.
There you go. That's what it is. The attic. Now, interestingly enough, we get a lot of this is where they definitively use old war footage. Is like the celebration footage is all like
Oh yeah, I wrote stock footage.
all grimy. Like it's even like it's not even good quality. But it's definitely from like the 1940s and stuff. It's like
Yeah,
really?
it's been a while since we've heard a news report, which we are now, which I like, but we don't see
Yeah.
any news anchors like we did in the original miniseries.
Right.
They're talking about the first breath of freedom, and then I wrote and cut to some bad stock footage.
And you know, it's funny too. Like you think about it, like first breath of freedom in a very long time. Like this has only been like a year, as far as I know, right? Just like,
Hey man,
like
a year is a long time.
I guess so. I guess so. But they made it seem like, and well, here's the other thing too, though. But like because a year is a long time, like just 3 episodes ago or 2 episodes ago, Harmony, who was kind of our stock like person of the world at that point, non-resistance, non-visitor. She was just kind of a person of the world. She was believing that the visitors were still kind of on our side. Like
Yeah, she bought the
them.
propaganda.
Right. And so I think it was kind of supposed to be that most people had bought the propaganda still. I mean, Julie and Donna and company went on the air to rip
So
the
I
face
wonder,
off.
culturally speaking, if maybe some places like Italy, Germany, um, Russia, that they would be more like,
Right. It felt weird that like it almost feels like, well, they're because everybody's celebrating so big. It's like, well, they all weren't most of them still under the impression that the visitors were helping us.
I think that might just been, maybe a North American thing because we
All right.
haven't experienced what can't happen here.
Right.
But countries where it did happen there, they'd be more like, say what now?
There you go.
Pardon?
Pardon. Excusez-moi. Okay. All right. Again, all the nitpicking I'm doing, it's out of love because I do end up loving watching this, and I have a lot of fun watching it. So I'm just nitpicking out of love.
But also,
get,
this does depict a very isolationist America,
yeah.
which in the 80s it was, from my understanding. Not to say it isn't now, but like we don't have like the global communication like social media provides.
Well,
So
that's
so in a situation like this, we wouldn't have other countries that have experienced actual fascism saying like, guys, red flag, red flag.
right. Right. That's true. That's a good point. Good point. But okay, we go back into the station, and yet, of course, Diana now definitely wants to nuke him. And John does not. This is where John stands his ground a little bit and is like, we've lost. We don't need to destroy the whole freaking world and get the resistance start
I
breaking
don't know
in.
why she wants to. It kind of doesn't make sense. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know what she's going for necessarily at this point. Well, it's partially because she's arrogant, and I think she can't lose, and this is her way of winning. If we can't have the Earth, you can't either. I'm not going to let you win, kind of thing. It feels like that's the competitive side to her. But John doesn't care, and John stupidly turns his back on her.
Well, she tells him to at gunpoint.
Yeah, well, no, she gives him the key. She gives the key, but like at that point, she turns around. At that point, he just goes, "Well, now it's your crown. Have it." I'm not sure where he's going, but he turns around and is like, "Queen of a poisoned realm," and just starts walking away. And that's when Diana shoots him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
At that point,
It's it happens.
it is a great line. It is a great line because Diana has a couple of good lines in there. She's like, if not for me, you know where to land. You're wondering who was in charge. I was in charge. I directed this whole operation. You made pretty speeches. You wore the crown. I had the power, and you wore the crown. And that's when John just turns to her. I love it. The crown. It's yours now, Diana. Enjoy it. Enjoy your reign, queen of a poisoned realm. It's a great line for John. At least he goes out on a good line. But
yeah, and
then we have basically the rest of the episode, which is a little strange. I'm not gonna lie. They break in. Julie shoots Diana, or Donovan shoots Diana, which again, if you ever go back, watch it. When Donovan breaks in, Diana shoots at Donovan. Donovan shoots at Diana. It seems to like hit her maybe in the arm, but she's holding it out like this, and she just kind of, instead of her reacting, she just starts sliding down and like just opens her hand and drops the gun. It's like she gets hit and like throws the gun. It's just kind of like this big. I'm just gonna drop the gun in front of me now, and she has her hand like open like this. It's funny. It's funny to watch. And then,
yeah, that was a choice.
The bomb is armed. They are rushing to it. Now, I actually like this part. Makes a little bit of sense. I love the fact that get Julie on Diana. And Donovan tells Martin to get the hell out of Dodge, get the mothership as far out into the atmosphere as possible. Elias is sent back to the landing bay to get the people off, get the resistance off. Nobody cares about Elizabeth, so I guess she can just die there with them. I guess. This point,
yeah, still 6-year-old in the control room. It's
hanging
fine.
out there.
It's fine. She's got her creepy music too. It's good.
And then Lorraine starts trying to decode the thing, which is cool. Okay, Lorraine gets this little big Tron, Atari, whatever it is out there.
Then I thought it was really stupid that Donovan tried. Like, you're just hitting buttons. I hate this. This is so dumb.
That was the time I started laughing.
Alpha male idiots. And then
that was the Independence Day moment for me. I'm kind of like, Donovan, you have no idea what the fuck this even is. Why are you in there pressing? Let me try. And Lorraine's like, well, sure, try. You don't even know what you're doing. It's like you're a computer person.
So dumb. That's so dumb and bothers her so much. And then Martin's flying the ship, and like 2 of the engines give out. So I guess the implication is they will not be able to meet escape velocity, so they won't be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. But they do. But he's like, I can't do anything else. And Julie says, well, try. I'll guess he really is just magic.
I feel bad for him. Yeah, he gets yelled at. That's his entire scene. It's him basically going, yeah, we're not going to, I can't do this. Just try. I mean, I'm trying. Try harder. What do you want the guy to do? He's one man flying this big mothership out. Things are failing.
That'd be like if you had your foot pressed all the way down on the accelerator and you're like, and they're like, go faster. Literally how?
Literally how? The engine starts failing on him. I can't fix this while I'm. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I felt bad for Martin, but it is what it is.
And then the music cue. And little, I'm going to call her.
Wait, one more thing first. Let's slide in one more thing first. Diana, this is actually Diana gets into Julie's head, supposedly, because all of a sudden, conversion.
She has telepathy?
Conversion means telepathy all of a sudden. She gets in her head and starts telling her, like, you gotta head back. Julie, the demon is here, the creature is here.
It's so bad, PLD.
It is awful. I'm gonna say, like, they did not establish this at all. And how do you do this without establishing it? I don't know. I would almost have preferred. I would have absolutely preferred Diana and Julie having a conversation, like, because Donovan and Lorraine and Martin are all busy. So I could understand them being the different part of the room and Diana talking to Julie and maybe tricking her that way. Maybe she's saying some kind of keywords or something. I would buy that.
I would totally have loved a Winter Soldier situation so much more. Absolutely. But I just wrote, okay, that's a choice.
Julie gets to prove that she's not converted still because she's going to shoot at her, but misses at point blank range, and Diana gets away.
It's fine.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. Obviously, we're setting up for the sequel.
Or something.
Obviously, they're setting up for the series at this point that they know must be coming because Diana has to get out. But then I will leave this to you because here comes Little Miss 26.
Okay, so we have little Elizabeth, who at this point I think we should just call Moonchild because this is never-ending story or something. She grabs the keys and she starts glowing. There's these little like glitter lights around her. It's some very bad CGI, and somehow she stops the bomb, which has already reached critical mass. I wrote, it's the most 80s fantasy moment I have ever seen, and I watched Flash Gordon today, so that's what I'm comparing it to.
Flash, savior of the universe. I love me some Flash Gordon, but this does not fit in this show. You're absolutely right. I was, as a kid, I didn't mind it. I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, I was going, okay, it is what it is. That's cool. Like it's Star Wars. It's she's a Jedi, basically, kind of thing in my head. But no, she gets
A
the thing like she's
Jedi, she is not.
Jedi. She is not. And she has like the conversion stuff going on in her face too. They actually use some of the same CGI as the conversions. So that's actually even more confusing. Uh, and all the other actors get to do is kind of stand and watch her put their shocked faces on, and then smile because she became a little Deus Ex Machina and ends the day. And it's like,
And then she says, Pratayama.
Pretanama. What does that mean?
It means peace.
Peace. We do get Diana leaving the mothership as with such great music, by the way, and I mean this seriously. It's such like villain mustache twirling music. Like they show her face, and it's like like I'm the bad guy, and I'm escaping to fight another day. And she looks at the earth, looks away, and then she smiles. It's like, why are you smiling? I mean, I know you guys just escaped, but you just got your ass kicked. You've lost all your shit. You got nothing. You got nothing right now.
Yeah, like you're coming home. You're not going to be a celebrated war hero, honey. You're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Tail between your legs. You killed John, you killed Pamela, and you lost her to the resistance.
Okay, but the only thing that she needs to report on is that last one.
That's true. That's true. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it because Donovan and Julie kiss. Martin brings the ship back, and that's how we kind of end. It's kind of an abrupt ending at that point.
It is an abrupt ending. I definitely felt it was an abrupt ending.
No reunion back on Earth. Donovan and Julie don't get to see Ham and Robert. No, we have no idea where Robin is. Robin hasn't been around since the last scene she had with Robert. Everybody kind of gets cut off.
Don't know how Willie's doing. That's the most important thing, obviously.
We just don't know about any of these people. Last time we saw Sancho was in the meeting, or you think we saw Sancho fighting a little bit, but yeah, all of them are just kind of there. We're like, oh, that's it. Huh? That's the end. Now, one thing I do have to bring up at the end here, one thing that's a more of an overall kind of nitpick, and this is more of the Independence Day thing too. I get using the red dust as a weapon. It's a kind of an interesting idea using a bacteria as a weapon against the visitors, and it made sense to degrees. Kind of cool. They weren't, because they mentioned Diana had inoculated them to all known Earth sickness and stuff. So they came up with a new bacteria. Okay, that's cool. But do they really think that this is going to be a forever kind of cure for them? Because Diana inoculated them against all known Earth diseases.
Well, bacteria isn't a disease.
Right. I get that. No, all known Earth diseases, but we're thinking that Diana probably can't. If Julie can market an antidote, if Julie can figure out an antidote for the fifth columnist, we're saying Diana can't figure out an antidote for them. Like, it just seems like it's kind of this is, you realize it's definitely a temporary victory, because if you guys can come up with an antidote, the great super technological race that has been here can almost definitively come up with an antidote themselves. Right?
Yeah, like I feel like they would just get, I don't know what we call this toxin, red toxin, penicillin.
Right. Like, so basically you won temporarily, but this isn't like happily ever after. This is definitively like we kicked them off the planet, now let's figure out a way to keep them off in a way. But they treat it kind of like it's happily ever after. But I digress. It's 80s sci-fi. It's fun. It's kitsch. It's good. It's cute. It's cool. But it's not the final battle, as we do know. There was a weekly series already in the works at this point, and it comes to NBC the following fall. And we will talk about that next time. We're going to do an episode probably in July, I believe. This is going to air at the end of June. Early July, we'll start airing. We're going to probably air bi-weekly because we're going to record bi-weekly. So I'll probably end up airing them bi-weekly at that for the most part, for the run of the weekly series. That is going to be a lot of fun. If you liked this episode, you'll definitely have fun watching those, because there's definitely a lot to nitpick about in the weekly series.
I mean, it's been a while since I watched it. I really feel like the only thing I remember is the stuff with Star Child. And I hated it.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, though. It's definitely kind of a case where I have a lot of fun watching it, even though it's definitively nowhere near what kind of Johnson initially created. But it still is fun to watch in a bad, goofy kind of way. We could definitely create some drinking games here. I think we will. We probably should create some drinking games here. But overall, what are your final thoughts on this episode of V the Final Battle and of V the Final Battle as a whole?
Okay, on this episode, honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it was a really good conclusion, although the last, bit of it maybe could have been like 10 minutes longer to kind of really close everyone's stories. If you have this many characters, you got to close them all.
Right.
You can't just focus on the two blonde leads. You got to give us some of those background characters. And as for the whole, again, I really liked it. It's not as good as the original miniseries, but I think this has a lot of really strong beats, as well as some misses, some very, very strong misses.
Yeah.
Definitely, lesser budget, but here's ultimately the takeaway. There's an alien horse battle, and that's what we need more of in life.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. I will say that again. I agree. I think that as much as I've nitpicked during this episode, for sure, I definitely nitpick out of love because obviously a lot of the stuff I nitpick because I've seen this. I've seen this a billion times. So obviously I rewatched it that many times. It's definitely worth watching. I have a lot of fun with it as well. I love Mike Donovan and Ham Town together. I think there's a lot of great action beats here. There's a lot of sci-fi fun. Yes, does it get cheesy at times? Absolutely. Is there stuff at the end where I would have changed things? Absolutely. Would I have done things a little differently? Absolutely. But it was a worthy enough conclusion to the sequel series, the episode being the sequel series. And it would have been a good spot. I think it was a good spot for the series to begin because they had definitely a nice road mapped out of how to continue. You are right, and I'll say this for sure. I don't think it's any surprise that the original miniseries is definitively heads above this, and definitively above the weekly series for sure. The original miniseries I consider to be a sci-fi masterpiece and a great piece of sci-fi cinema. But I can definitely have fun with this. So this is definitely a fun-worthy conclusion sequel series. I have a good time, and sometimes that's all you need. Yeah. So. Yeah, good characters, good fun, a rip-roaring yarn, great actors of the '80s with Mark Singer, Michael Ironside, Jane Butler, great Diana, even when she's given some stuff that is questionable. Sorry, Blair, I don't mean to knock you, but you are the negative, unfortunately. But Robert Englund, also great in there as well. Of course, Michael Durrell as Robert Maxwell. It's a great series. If you haven't watched it, I don't know why you're watching this episode if you haven't watched them, but you definitely should take a look. It's definitely a lot of fun. But that's where we'll wrap up. We are well over 2 hours this time. We had a long time talking about this one. Where can the folks find you?
I can be found at Legoland13 on YouTube, and I just recently started a Instagram dedicated to horror movies, which you can find linked on my YouTube page because it's kind of hard to spell. And also, I have a podcast dedicated to the one and only Nicolas freaking Cage called Cage Unleashed. You can also find a link to the show I do live on YouTube, as well as it is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, thanks to PLD's help, because I couldn't figure it out.
I'm always glad to help, especially when it comes to Cage, because I love me some Nick Cage. That was definitely so. I definitely had some ulterior motives in helping you out because I get to listen to it now. I also want to say, if this is your first time here and you've lasted 2.5 hours, thank you. I appreciate it. Click that like, click that subscribe, and leave us some comments. And if you also want to support the channel even further, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/PLD projects. You guys really help keep the lights on for me, so I do appreciate you. Such patrons as Austin Cadell, Matthew Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, and Kelly W. rejoining the producer's rank. I really do appreciate you guys and all you do. We have a lot of cool stuff going on at PLD Projects in general. By the time you're hearing this, Class Action How has gone on hiatus for a little bit. We still have Holy Snokes, which is our weekly Star Wars podcast with me and Maddie Gunner. We have, at this point, we're still doing Mission Impossible Declassified. We're running up the Mission Impossible franchise up until, so just for the Declassified for Dead Reckoning Part 1 that's coming out shortly. PJ and I are doing Two Miracle White Dudes on Film right now. Still doing that, running up to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And as always, I do my Queen podcast on the sister YouTube channel, PLD Projects Crown Jewels. I think that's it. I think that's all I'm doing. Oh, the Harris Dance is coming. It is coming for sure. That's coming in late June, maybe early July. But I will be going through every IMDb credit of Ed Harris, whether it be movie, TV episode. There's a couple of them that are unreleased episodes. I'm going to gather as much information I can. Those might be 5-minute episodes because I might not have anything to talk about. But I'm going to have a video on every single entry. So
I'm eagerly awaiting for The Rock and National Treasure 2 Book of Secrets.
Hey, there you go. That's a crossover right there waiting to happen. Absolutely. But that's not here or now. That is going to be in the future. I really appreciate you guys. Stay tuned till next time, next couple weeks from now, where we talk about the weekly series. First episode, Liberation Day. Stay tuned. Prete Nama, everybody. Prete Nama.